Chapter 168, Yulian. Seeing the shocked expression on the elder's face, Jian Chen smiled gently and said, "Indeed, Elder Huang has a good eye." The unexpected sight of a Class 5 magical beast's body had given the elder's heart a great big shock. But soon enough, he quickly brought his emotions under control. Taking a deep breath to calm himself, he looked back at Jian Chen with a completely different attitude. "Dear sir, do you really wish to auction off this Class 5 magical beast body?" The elder's eyes contained hope in them as he waited for Jian Chen's response. A Class 5 magical beast's body was especially precious as well as being especially hard to supply. In the history of the Class 2 Phoenix City, there were only 2 or 3 occurrences of a Class 5 magical beast body being sold in the last dozen years. Although, each time it occurred, it had sent shockwaves to the nearby cities where all of the influential clans in the vicinity would begin to fight over it. If these 2 bodies were to be auctioned off in his Heavenly Phoenix auction house, his auction house would definitely earn a supremely high reputation. If that happened, then their auction house becoming the #1 auction house in this area of the empire would not be too far off as a dream. Seeing the nervous look on the elder's face, Jian Chen couldn't help but smile. "Correct, these 2 Class 5 magical beasts, I've come here to auction them. Will there be a problem with that?" The elder's face lit up as he hurriedly responded to Jian Chen, "No, not at all. You may auction these bodies within our Heavenly Phoenix auction house. In fact, we would be honored to do so. However, dear sir, these 2 Class 5 magical beast bodies are very important and have far surpassed my authorization. Please wait a moment, and I will bring the manager of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house to come and discuss this matter with you." With that, the elder gave a polite salute to Jian Chen and left the room, causing it to become quiet once more, leaving Jian Chen as the sole person inside. Casually leaning back on his chair, Jian Chen tilted his head down as he began to think. Right now his mind was constantly thinking about just what type of trouble he could come across as a result of this. The body of a Class 5 magical beast was very precious. Within the Class 2 Phoenix City, this could be said to be extremely rare. Jian Chen himself knew that if he were to auction these 2 bodies, it would undoubtedly send shockwaves throughout this area. Thus trouble would undoubtedly come to him. Kacha! Suddenly a sound could be heard as the door to the room was opened. Jian Chen tilted his head to look only to see a cyan-colored robe-wearing woman slowly walk in with refined steps. The moment she had walked in, a sweet fragrance had immediately wafted into the room. This woman was rather tall and looked to be around 30 years old. Her entire figure seemed to carry the unique temperament of a female with a beautiful face that held no argument. To some ordinary men, they would most likely not be able to resist her charm. Right behind her, her dark green-colored hair hung without any binding against her shoulders and back. Her black pupils seemed to shine with a mysterious light that seemed as if it could read a person's mind. Right behind this woman was the elder Huang, who had previously left the room, closing the door behind them. As Jian Chen studied the woman studied Jian Chen as she elegantly sat down opposite of Jian Chen. Her twin black eyes stared deeply at Jian Chen as if trying to understand him before she smiled and said, "I am called Yulian, the one in charge of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Might this one know what to call you by?" Jian Chen cupped his hands in greeting. "This one is called Wu Yun, Miss Yulian." Yulian nodded her head and gave a small look at the nearby elder Huang. "So you are called Wu Yun. I've just heard from Elder Huang that you wanted to sell 2 bodies of Class 5 magical beasts. Is this the case?" Yulian's beautiful eyes then swung toward Jian Chen to study his face for an answer. "Correct, that is the case." Jian Chen placed the space belt with the 2 Class 5 magical beasts on top of the table. Continuing to speak, he said, "Miss Yulian, they are right here, so examine them if you will." Yulian grabbed the space belt to begin inspecting the contents, but the moment she saw the corpses of the magical beasts inside, her face had a look of extreme shock. These are indeed Class 5 magical beasts. And if I'm not wrong, then this is the magical Skywing Cow and the Quick Cloud Beast. Yulian commented. Jian Chen nodded his head, Miss Yoyan, if I leave these two Class 5 magical beasts within the care of the auction house, will there be any problems? Hearing that, Yoyan began to laugh gently as she placed the space belt back on the table. Her twin black pupils looked as if they could absorb the soul of any mortal and had some sort of lovely charm to it as she stared at Jian Chen. Of course there won't be a problem. For Sir to auction these two magical beasts within our auction house, this is simply too rare of an event. This would surely be a good thing for our auction house, so I can exempt Sir from the service fee for this. In the case that the auction house successfully sells the magical beasts, then Sir will receive 100% of the profits, and our auction house will not receive any of it. Jian Chen didn't care at all for the service fee, but he cupped his hands in respect nonetheless. Of course, if Sir were to bring out the Class 5 monster cores with the magical beasts, then our Heavenly Phoenix auction house can openly proclaim this and definitely bring in a higher price. Why don't you think this over for a moment? Yoyan continued to say. Jian Chen's face had a bitter smile as he said, Miss Yoyan, I am truly regretful but those two Class 5 magical beasts were found by me on the Magical Beast Mountain Range. By the time I discovered their bodies, their monster cores were already gone, so thus I only have the bodies and not the cores. Oh. So that's the case. Yoyan didn't believe Jian Chen, but nevertheless smiled at him. Seeing this, Jian Chen's expression sunk as he spoke with a slightly unsatisfied face, Miss Yoyan, I've already said it, but it's up to you to believe it. Seeing the slightly angry look on Jian Chen's face, Yoyan had an apologetic look on her face and said, Sir Wu Yun, please do not take offense. This little girl was only asking, without any other purpose, please do not misunderstand. Quickly taking out a piece of paper, she said, Sir Wu Yun, please sign your name here and give us the two Class 5 magical beasts so that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house can auction them. Does Sir have any further questions? I am already familiar with the rules of the auction house. Good. Then these two magical beasts will be temporarily given to you. If there are any problems that arise from this, then your auction house will take the blame. Sir Wu Yun, please rest assured. Our Heavenly Phoenix auction house must maintain our reputation. In the case a problem or loss happens, our Heavenly Phoenix auction house will take responsibility. Chapter 169, Eliminating Danger. After that, Jian Chen and the manager of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Yoyan, went over a few things for the process of the auction house. After all that was done, Jian Chen left the Class 5 magical beasts with the auction house and left. Once Jian Chen had left the secret room, all that remained was the appraiser Elder Huang and the manager Yoyan. Closing the door to the room, Elder Huang returned to where he was just sitting and sat down once again. Staring at the space belt in Yoyan's hands, he finally said to her, Little Yoyan, do you think the Class 5 monster cores could be in Wu Yun's hands? Yoyan carefully caressed the space belt with the two Class 5 magical beasts with her jade-like fingers. Despite there being blood within it, she did not feel unwell or even loathe it even with her feminine personality. There's a good chance of that. Judging from these wounds, the magical beasts must have killed each other and had one person clean up at the end and extract the monster cores. So this person must not be all that strong and is vastly inferior to these two Class 5 magical beasts, otherwise he would have easily killed these two magical beasts without having so many messy wounds. Yoyan murmured. Yet, we cannot rule out the fact that he did not extract the Class 5 monster cores. The one called Wu Yun indeed came across the corpses, but the probability that he doesn't have the monster cores is low. Only those at the Earth or Heaven Saint Master level would not care for a Class 5 magical beast's body, but the monster cores were clearly not removed by such an expert. Hearing this, Elder Huang nodded his head and said, When you say it like that, then the two Class 5 monster cores are really on Wu Yun's body. Yes, that is the most likely situation. Yoyan nodded her head slowly. Forget it, whether or not the Class 5 monster cores are with Wu Yun are not of our concern. We just need to do what we are supposed to do as an auction house. Although a Class 5 monster core is very expensive, compared to our Heavenly Phoenix auction house's reputation, it is a negligible cost. Alright, Elder Huang, let's forget about the Class 5 monster core and do what is expected of us with peace of mind. To our Heavenly Phoenix auction house, this accidental discovery of the Class 5 magical beasts was an extremely rare occasion in the first place. That's why we must properly utilize this hard-to-come-by opportunity and increase our Heavenly Phoenix auction house's renown even more. Yes, I understand. Elder Huang responded. Furthermore, we must keep this matter with Wu Yun being the owner of the Class 5 magical beast a secret. We must not allow any news of this to be leaked out, otherwise, it would not benefit our Heavenly Phoenix auction house at all. It would also have a huge impact on the reputation of our Heavenly Phoenix auction house. You can understand this much, right? Yoyin spoke gently, but the words she spoke contained a hint of iron to them, almost as if she was speaking like a commander. Yes, this elder understands. Elder Huang answered immediately. After leaving the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Jian Chen walked into the crowded streets down a certain road. In the end he had finally reached a small isolated alleyway. Seeing the rows of locked-up homes that were uninhabited, Jian Chen hesitated for a moment before taking out his light wind sword to cut down the chains and walking inside a room. The inside of the room was pitch black, so visibility was very poor. Yet Jian Chen could make out the simple layout of the furniture and a table that had a very visible layer of dust on top of it, indicating that no one had lived in this home for a very long time. Jian Chen looked around himself before immediately taking out a few things from his space belt to clear away the disguise on his face. Swapping out his old clothes for a new set of clothes and then changing his hairstyle, he destroyed any last trace and walked out of the wooden house into the alley. By the time Jian Chen had come into the line of sight of anyone else, he already had his original appearance. Even his attitude had made a change from his previous disguise. At this moment, even if Elder Huang or Yoyin were to look at Jian Chen, they would not be able to find a connection between Jian Chen and Wu Yun because the differences between the two were far too many. First buying a detailed map of Phoenix City, Jian Chen had decided to walk toward the bustling Heavenly Phoenix auction house and stroll around. While Class 5 magical beasts may be a common sight in the more major cities, in a city like Phoenix City, this was an undeniable precious treasure. Jian Chen knew that selling a Class 5 magical beast would not be as easy as it should be, so he had to familiarize himself with the environment. In the case that something unexpected happened, he would at least have an escape route and wouldn't be flustered. For the entire afternoon, Jian Chen wandered around the area and traveled down every road and alleyway. It was only when it was night time that Jian Chen returned to the inn. After eating a simple meal, Jian Chen sat down on his bed in a cross-legged position and closed his eyes. But Jian Chen wasn't cultivating this time. Perhaps it was because he had gone up in strength far too fast, or maybe it was because he had used the monster cores to cultivate too much. With his strength being at the peak Saint Master level, he was no longer able to use his strength as efficiently as he used to. With this, he wasn't able to utilize his fighting strength to his full potential or even as smoothly before. It wasn't an extremely serious problem, but then, Jian Chen knew that if he didn't resolve this problem soon, then it would definitely have a long-lasting effect on him. So in this moment, Jian Chen was not cultivating in fear of increasing his strength too fast. If he abused his cultivation speed, his control over his Saint Force would be too troublesome. So, before any defects formed in his cultivation, it would be best to resolve any dangers before such a thing could happen. Chapter 170, The Sensation Caused by the Class 5 Magical Beast, 1. For the entire night Jian Chen sat on his bed, and refined the Saint Force within his body endlessly, to ensure that he would be able to use it efficiently. He didn't dare to continue cultivating, in fear that the danger hidden in his body would become more predominant. The Saint Force within Jian Chen's body flowed around his meridians in a fixed pattern non-stop. As it flowed within his body, he could feel the control over his body constantly increasing. At the same time, the level of compatibility between his Saint Force and his body slowly increased. He also realized that while circulating his saint force, his blood was also doing the same. A few of the strange genetic factors in his blood began to accumulate and enter the various organs of his body. Those genetic factors were the anti-venom genes from the silver-striped golden snake. Although the anti-venom genes had fully integrated into his bloodstream earlier in the year, the blood was only starting to alter his organs. It would take a long time until the process was completed. Right now, the amount of anti-venom-filled blood had only changed a small part of his body. Previously, the 1000 immunity had only succeeded in a small amount by having his blood reproduce the anti-venom. It would only be when his entire body was altered, and had the anti-venom that the 1000 immunity would truly be completed. The night went by peacefully until morning came. When the sun rose, the saint force that Jian Chen had been circulating the whole night gathered continuously back into his dantian, finally forming the shape of a sword. Although the shape was still a bit blurry, it was still more distinct than it had been when Jian Chen broke through to the Saint Master level. Jian Chen left his room and went down to the tavern where he ordered a single dish of magical beast meat for breakfast. With his current strength, even if he went a day without eating, he wouldn't feel hungry at all. Although, having 3 square meals a day had already become a habit to Jian Chen, and he would always eat regularly unless there were some extraordinary circumstances. Other than that, he refused to not eat a meal. After all, eating a fine meal was one of life's simple but great pleasures. Since it was prime time to eat breakfast, the tavern had quickly filled up its tables. Many of the mercenaries were forming groups to sit together. They exchanged information of what they've heard and seen, filling the room with their clamor. Jian Chen sat by himself with a few other dishes on the table and enjoyed his meal while listening in on the other mercenaries. Hey fellow brothers! Today the Heavenly Phoenix auction house will start. Rumors say they will be auctioning off a Class 5 magical beast corpse. A blue-robed mercenary said. What? A Class 5 magical beast? Oh heavens, that's a beast that requires an Earth Saint Master to defeat at the very least. How does the Heavenly Phoenix auction house have one of those? Fellow, are you sure you're not tricking me? A person cried out in disbelief. The first one who spoke had a smile full of conviction. Fellow brothers, why don't we make a bet on it then? If the words I say are fake then I will be the loser, but if my words end up to be true, then I win. How about it? Do you expect me to believe a Class 5 magical beast could possibly show up in a Class 2 city like Phoenix City? Fine. I'll call your bet. Another person called out. I've lived for 30 years and heard news of Class 5 magical beasts many times, yet I have never seen a Class 5 magical beast with my own eyes. Okay, I'll bet as well. 2 gold coins. In the case that the Heavenly Phoenix auction house really is selling a Class 5 magical beast, then consider it my loss of these 2 gold coins. A person at the table called out. The amount of chatter at the table was growing as it quickly attracted the attention of the nearby diners. Immediately a few other men walked on over to the table and greeted them respectfully. Fellow brothers, you've just said that the Heavenly Auction House is auctioning off a Class 5 magical beast. Is this piece of information verified? Hearing this, the youth that first mentioned the news laughed. Brother, it seems no one believes this information. Then why doesn't everyone bet on it? Is this not interesting enough for you? The person who had approached them hesitated before nodding. Fine, then I shall bet 5 gold coins. If there really is a Class 5 magical beast being sold at the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, then these 5 gold coins are yours without any hard feelings. Okay, I'll also place a bet. I've been here in Phoenix City for 20 years already, but I've never seen a Class 5 magical beast appear in an auction. Actually, I've never even seen one before, so I don't even know what one would look like. Class 5 magical beasts normally appear in king cities. They rarely even show up in Class 1 cities. The information about a Class 5 magical beast showing up in a Class 2 city like Phoenix City is most likely false. Forget it, since everyone is so into it, I might as well bet. This news is definitely false. I'll add a bet as well. I say that the Class 5 magical beast could appear in some Class 1 city auction. That would at least be possible. However, appearing in a Class 2 city is clearly impossible. The discussion at the table quickly attracted the interest of everyone eating in the restaurant. They had all been lured by the topic of a Class 5 magical beast, and were all silently gambling with themselves about whether or not it was true. Jian Chen, who was slowly enjoying his food, smiled bitterly and shook his head at the actions of the people in the restaurant. At the moment, he was currently wondering whether bringing the two Class 5 magical beasts to a Class 2 city like Phoenix City to auction them off was a wise choice. However, Jian Chen understood very well that if he brought the Class 5 magical beast to a Class 1 city or the capital to auction off, he'd admittedly sell it for a high price. The problem was that the pressure he'd have to face would unfortunately be greater since the stronger experts were pretty much all gathered at these flourishing and fertile places. If someone from that type of place came looking to stir up trouble with him, he'd have a much harder time dealing with them. However, being in a second-class city like Phoenix City was a completely different story. In Phoenix City, Earth Saint Masters were extremely uncommon. Even if an Earth Saint Master class expert did approach him looking for trouble, it was likely that Jian Chen would be able to cope. It was unlikely that the opposite party would be able to pressure him to the point where he wouldn't be able to resist. It was precisely due to this reason that Jian Chen had decided to auction off the Class 5 magical beasts at Phoenix City. Just as the people in the restaurant were discussing the news about the Class 5 magical beast in a frenzy, the loud banging of a gong suddenly rang out from outside. Dong! Dong! Major news, major news. The annual large-scale auction at the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House after the 9th will be selling off two Class 5 magical beasts. This information made both the people on the street, as well as the originally incomparably lively restaurant dumbstruck. Everything went dead silent and everyone had expressions of disbelief on their faces. Class 5 magical beasts were really going to be sold in the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. Moreover, there wouldn't be just one available, but two. Chapter 171, The Sensation Caused by the Class 5 Magical Beast. 2. The difference between a Class 4 and Class 5 magical beast was only one level, but there was a huge distinction between the two. Class 4 magical beasts weren't anything special on the Tianyuan continent, but a Class 5 magical beast was very precious. This was because a Class 5 magical beast was a great deal stronger than a Class 4 magical beast, which made them that much harder to capture or kill. Class 5 magical beasts were gifted with a certain level of intelligence. The 5th stage magical beasts were born with an advantage, in that their strength would be greater than their human counterparts of the same level. Thus under an situation of a one-on-one, it would be very difficult for a human expert to kill a Class 5 magical beast. In addition to that, Class 5 magical beasts had an established hidden rule: if they fought and killed among themselves, other Class 5 magical beasts wouldn't interfere. However, once a human expert disturbed them, they would call upon each other, and unify together to retaliate against the threat. That was why the body of a Class 5 magical beast was so rare. Jian Chen felt that the beating of the gong outside on the streets was unexpected. Although he knew that the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House would announce the Class 5 magical beasts, he didn't think that they would announce it in such a manner. The sounds of the gong being beaten and firecrackers going off filled the streets. The declaration of the annual Heavenly Phoenix Auction House was officialized. With this declaration outside, in less than half a day, the entire Phoenix City would know about the Class 5 magical beasts being sold at the auction. A Class 5 magical beast being sold in a Class 2 city was a rare event that shocked many people. Something like this was an unprecedented event for the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House, and it could be said that they were sparing no expenses. Not only did the entire Phoenix City know about the Class 5 magical beast, but even the cities that were in the vicinity of Phoenix City knew. Some time later, the news that the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House would be auctioning a Class 5 magical beast had spread to 500 kilometers away. Soon enough, every influential power had heard about the Class 5 magical beasts and set off for Phoenix City. At the center of Phoenix City, there was a quiet mansion that towered over the others. By the gates of the mansion, 10 armored guards stood perfectly still like statues. On top of the gates was a board with the 3 words, City Lord's Mansion. Those golden words gave anyone reading it a feeling of power. This mansion was truly the mansion of the Lord of Phoenix City. Within the beautiful garden behind the mansion, a white-robed, middle-aged man was practicing his martial arts with a giant blade. His movements were quick and fluid as he moved around the flower garden. His blade danced around and left shadow trails as each swing filled the air. With how fast the blade was traveling, it was almost impossible to catch the blade's exact position as a large amount of Saint force filled the air as well. A moment later, an elderly housekeeper walked forward and watched the man in the rose garden practice his martial arts. "My lord, some news just came in. There will be 2 Class 5 magical beasts auctioned off at the annual Heavenly Phoenix auction house." "What? A Class 5 magical beast?" The blade in the middle-aged man's hands suddenly stopped as he turned around to look at the housekeeper with a stunned expression. "Housekeeper Cheng, what did you just say?" The housekeeper repeated his words, causing the middle-aged man's face to grow more and more shocked. With an expression full of disbelief, he asked with some doubt, "Housekeeper Cheng, the Heavenly Phoenix auction house is truly selling a Class 5 magical beast?" "My lord, that was the news given by the Heavenly Phoenix auction house themselves. Elder Xiu himself confirmed it as well, so this was absolutely true. For the past dozen years, I've only seen Class 5 magical beast in Phoenix City thrice. So hearing that a Class 5 magical beast is being sold in the auction is a first in many years." The middle-aged man furrowed his eyebrows in thought before asking, "Housekeeper Cheng, do you know who was responsible for these 2 Class 5 magical beasts? To have such precious cargo come into our Phoenix City is quite strange." Elder Xiu does not know. This answer was already anticipated by the middle-aged man, and his face revealed no surprise. Tilting his head for a moment, he said, "Housekeeper Cheng, go to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house and invite boss Zhou Tian to the mansion." "Yes, my lord." In the residence of another place in Phoenix City, an elderly man with a scholarly air sat in his study reading a few books. At that moment, a knock was heard from the door. The man furrowed his eyebrows and said with some dissatisfaction, "Who is it? Did I not say that I am not to be disturbed while in the study?" "Father, it is your son with a report." "Come in then." The door opened, revealing a black-robed, middle-aged man who strolled in. "Father, some news just came in. A Class 5 magical beast will be auctioned off later at the Heavenly Phoenix auction house." "What? A Class 5 magical beast?" The elderly man was shocked. Immediately putting down the book in his hand, he turned away from his table to look at his son, Jian Air. "Is that true? Your son personally went to the Heavenly Phoenix auction house to confirm it. This is undeniably true." The middle-aged man nodded his head with certainty. A Class 5 magical beast is extremely uncommon in a Class 2 city. The Heavenly Phoenix auction house, just where and how did they get a Class 5 magical beast? The elder murmured. There was a flash in his eyes as he looked at the middle-aged man, Jian Air. "Do you know if the Heavenly Phoenix auction house is selling the Class 5 monster core, a Class 5 magical beast cub, or the body of a Class 5 magical beast?" Your son does not know. The Heavenly Phoenix auction house would not divulge that information. Only a few figures know that answer, and your son was unable to find out. Find it out immediately. The elder said. Yes. The news of the Class 5 magical beast had not only interested the people in Phoenix City, but the influential people of power in the area as well. For the next few days, a countless stream of people came into Phoenix City from every direction. Even more waiters and workers for the inns and restaurants hurried around as the buildings filled up completely. Along with the amount of guests, the prices of the inns rapidly soared to 10 times the usual price. At the same time, the security of the city was intensified as groups of soldiers could be seen patrolling around every area. Every so often, Jian Chen would observe the situation by the sidelines. The other few moments were spent cultivating. He was still hard at work trying to refine his saint force completely. Despite the price of the room going up by 10 times the original price, it was not an issue for Jian Chen. Chapter 172, The start of the auction. By this point, Phoenix City was a city full of the rich and the poor mixed together because of the news of the Class 5 beast. It had not only attracted the influential people from the city, but the outside powers as well. At the same time, the area around the Heavenly Phoenix auction house had become strange. Almost every day, various dressed-up people would linger around the auction house, and there would always be a pair of eyes closely watching people enter and exit the auction house. Although the Heavenly Phoenix auction house had tried to keep the matter of what exactly was being sold a secret, it was like trying to contain a fire with paper. After every influential power had looked into the matter, most of the details about the 2 Class 5 magical beasts and their origins had been found out by the day before the auction. There were 2 Class 5 magical beasts' bodies without their monster cores and a mysterious man that had to be an Earth Saint Master at the very least. This was all the information that every influential power could find out. Although this was something outside of their expectations, it didn't weaken their excitement over the Class 5 magical beasts. In a restaurant in Phoenix City, a few middle-aged men sat gathered together in a somewhat cramped room. Keep looking. I order everyone to look into this. We must find out who is responsible for these 2 Class 5 magical beasts. The Class 5 monster cores are definitely with him. Tomorrow when the auction starts, that man will definitely show up, so have someone look at anyone that enters the auction house closely. A white-robed, middle-aged man commanded. In a luxurious manner in Phoenix City, a dignified person looked down over the other middle-aged men and elders sitting at the table. Right now, the news of the Class 5 magical beast has already been confirmed. Although they're only the bodies without the monster cores, their prices will still be very high. It is said that eating the meat of a Class 5 magical beast is said to increase one's strength majorly. Even the blood of a Class 5 magical beast can strengthen the inner organs, something like that could even benefit an Earth Saint Master. So, we definitely need to purchase those 2 Class 5 magical beasts at all costs, and even if we can't get both of them, then we need to get at least one. Also, the 2 Class 5 monster cores should still be on that person. Class 5 monster cores are even more precious than the bodies, and are very hard to come across in Phoenix City. Our Huangpu clan must obtain them at all costs. Tomorrow, you all will bring some men over and find out who is auctioning off the magical beasts. My lord, although the reports said that the person who got the Class 5 magical beasts wasn't a strong individual, the fact that he was able to obtain them in the first place is proof that this situation isn't as simple as we thought. I am guessing that there is a high-level expert supporting him. Another white-haired elder said respectfully. Not possible. The standing middle-aged man said. The news we received was very clear-cut. These 2 Class 5 magical beasts died from battling each other before being collected. Judging from the man-made injuries inflicted onto the 2 when the monster cores were extracted, then that person isn't strong at all, so everyone's concerns aren't necessary. The Lord is truly wise. This old man was completely muddled. The elder cupped his hands together in respect, and sat back down. Okay, time is cutting short. Next up, I would like to talk about tomorrow's rearrangements. In the pitch-dark night, the Phoenix City was fairly quiet. There was only a single group of guards patrolling the streets. Now that all sorts of influential powers were gathered, the city was a mixture of the strong and the weak, so the lord of the city had no choice but to have some guards patrol the city at night just to keep the peace. Hushed discussions and commands could be heard from all over Phoenix City. All of them were related to the Class 5 magical beasts and the mysterious person putting them up for auction. The night quickly passed. Dawn broke the dark skies from the horizon, marking the opening day of the Heavenly Phoenix auction, who had long since opened their gates. The giant gates had been decorated with ribbons and lanterns as both people and workers streamed in and out of the building. In the distance, quite a few dressed-up people stood there, waiting for the auction house to open. Today was the day of the annual auction at the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House. In the past, this had always been the busiest day for the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House, but today, they had the rare Class 5 magical beasts for sale. This year was even livelier than the years before. Before the day had been blessed by sunshine, there were already many people waiting by the gates. After dawn, the sun rose into the air and emitted a red glow that bathed the lands in its warm light. More and more people began to gather at the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House and filled up the nearby streets. Caravans found it extremely difficult to get by or find parking. Many people had been waiting for at least 2 hours before the ear-splitting sounds of a gong and firecrackers could be heard. This year's annual auction had finally begun. The auction this year wasn't like the past auctions. In the past, every person would have to buy an admission fee to participate, and this year was no exception in that regard. However, because of the Class 5 magical beasts, the admission fee this year was even more expensive than usual. Last year, the fee had been 5 gold coins, but this year, it was 10 times more expensive. The price was now 50 gold coins. Although this hike in prices made many people unhappy, it did not deter the people with money in their pockets. At the same time, it had gotten rid of the people who were merely there to watch the show and not buy anything. In this way, there was enough room for all the powers that were extremely interested in the Class 5 magical beasts. After the gates opened up for the auction house, the people that already had tickets and had been waiting outside for a very long time began to enter through the entrance in a straight line. Jian Chen had already returned to the disguise of a middle-aged man that he had wore when he had first entered the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Slipping into the crowd, he slowly began to walk into the auction house. As he reached the inner halls of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, a large expansive area greeted his eyes. The space was filled with neat rows of seats for as far as the eye could see. It was clear that the number of seats had surpassed 1,000. Chapter 173, The Auctioning of the Class 5 Magical Beast. The area had 2 stories worth of seats, and the 2 stories combined had a total of over 10,000 seats. Installed on the sides of every seat were dozens of private rooms for the honored guests, each separated by a tinted glass wall. From the inside they could still clearly see the outside, but no one on the outside could see what was happening on the inside. In the front was a 2-meter-tall stand where the items would be auctioned. At the moment, there was a huge piece of cloth covering the majority of the stands, making everyone unable to see what was hidden underneath. Finding a relatively isolated seat, Jian Chen calmly sat down and waited for the auction to start. People all around him were slowly starting to settle down as well. After some time, the auction hall had been completely filled up, with every last empty spot being crowded with people standing close together. Just as the final seats were taken and everyone had settled down, a golden eruption of fireworks exploded overhead. The concealed stand-up in front slowly started to ascend into the air as the red cloth on it began to rise. The mysterious items concealed were slowly revealed to the entire audience. Standing on top of the stand was an elderly man around 60 years, and in front of him was a red-colored wooden table. The elder's eyes swept the audience as he cleared his throat and loudly announced, "Honored guests, I thank you all for participating in our Heavenly Phoenix Auction House's annual auction. I, Xiao Gurong, will be the host for this year's auction, and so I hope everyone today will be able to see an item they will want to buy." The elder paused for a moment to clear his throat once more before continuing to speak. This year the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House has seen its busiest year. That is because this year we shall be auctioning off 2 precious items that our Heavenly Phoenix Auction House has already announced. What these items are, I am sure many people here are already aware of. So I, Elder Xiao, will not waste any more time describing them. Good. Then I declare that the auction is now officially starting. I didn't think that the host of the auction this year would have the strength of a saint master. Jian Chen muttered to himself. When the elder was speaking, he had used his saint force to magnify his voice so that everyone in the auction hall would be able to hear it. At the sound of the elder's words, 10 men suddenly walked toward the stand, encircling it. Their eyes stared coldly at the audience, as if showing off their positions as bodyguards. Afterward, a young, elegant woman slowly walked into view from behind the stand. A tray covered by a red cloth was lifted high into the air by her hand, as she skillfully walked toward the host. Carefully, she set down the tray on the table in front of the host. Honored guests, we shall now auction away the first item. What this hidden item is, I shall reveal it to you all. With that, the host extended his arm to grab the cloth and abruptly tore it away to reveal a palm-sized jade bottle. The very first item is the miraculous 100 herbs pill. For the honored guests who are unfamiliar with this item, it is a hard-to-come-by medicine that has the healing effect of 100 herbs. In a time of crisis, this medicine can be an additional safeguard. This bottle has 5 pills of the miraculous 100 herb pill and has a starting price of 10 purple coins. Every new call will add an additional purple coin minimum. You may begin bidding. 11 purple coins. 12 purple coins. 13 purple coins. 15 purple coins. Just as the host finished speaking, the people in the audience immediately started to fight over the miraculous 100 herb pill. This medicine had a very strong healing effect that could heal not only physical wounds, but internal injuries as well. Once this pill was eaten, the wounds would quickly stabilize themselves. Although the healing effect was still vastly inferior compared to when a Radiant Saint Master healed someone, this item was still readily welcomed by everyone. Radiant Saint Masters were a rare breed in the Tian Yuan continent, and with such a majestic identity, only a few influential clans would be able to have a Radiant Saint Master render their services to them. Thus, herb-based medicines were well received within the Tian Yuan continent. The higher effect they had on healing, the more expensive they became. As Jian Chen sat and watched the people around him fight for the medicine, there was a faint smile on his face. Although the miraculous 100 herb pill had a strong healing effect, he could control the Radiant Saint force just like a Radiant Saint Master, so this medicine was completely useless to him. After a fierce battle, the bottle of miraculous 100 herb pill was sold to the highest bidder for a price of 28 purple coins. People began to fight over item after item, especially for the ones that were rare and very hard to come by. Among all of these items, not a single one of them were of interest to Jian Chen. Quickly, noon came to the auction house as the auction house workers passed lunch to all of the participating guests. Although the auction itself did not cease and items continued to be sold. One by one, precious but strange treasures were sold off to the highest bidders, and soon, the auction was already reaching the ending point. Honored guests, the next item will be one of the last 2 items for this year, and is also one of the items everyone is most interested in. The host suddenly stopped speaking as his eyes swept over the audience. Almost as if everyone was one huge collective consciousness, the whole audience concentrated on the stand up front. The host began to smile. It can be said that these items are what everyone has been anticipating for a very long time. With that then, I, Elder Xiu, will not speak anymore. Come, bring the item up. Just as he finished speaking, a few lumber workers came up onto the stall with a stretcher. As soon as they appeared, everyone in the audience zoomed in on the stretcher. There was a huge black cloth covering the stretcher, making it so that no one could see what was underneath it. However, there was a huge protrusion underneath the cloth that allowed many people to guess just what was being hidden. The men slowly lowered the stretcher onto the table and left the stand. Strolling toward the table, the host stooped over and placed a hand on the black cloth. Chapter 174, Fierce Battle. Thus, everyone in the auction hall had their eyes glued to the black cloth-covered thing. While this was only one Class 5 magical beast body, it had still attracted the interest of many people. In their hearts they had thought that in their entire lives, this may be the only time they would be able to see a Class 5 magical beast. After all, Class 5 magical beasts weren't like Earth Saint Masters. In a few of the bustling cities, many of the bigger sects had a few Earth Saint Master experts. Class 5 magical beasts were also very different from humans. They would usually stick to their own areas instead of strolling out and about. Although, whenever they did come across any humans, those humans would surely die. So Class 5 magical beasts were beings that many weaker humans wouldn't want to be stuck with. As the host slowly took the black cloth away, the hidden object underneath was finally revealed to the eagerly anticipating crowd. Underneath was only the pitch-black colored body of a cow-like magical beast. A few of the closer and more observant guests could clearly see the small black wings on the back of the magical beast. This magical beast was just quietly lying on the stretcher, completely still. Its body was about 4-5 m long, and it looked like a small hill. Don't tell me that this is the Class 5 magical beast. Class 5 magical beasts actually look like this. It doesn't feel very different from some Class 1 or 2 magical beasts. Today is the day that I finally got to see a Class 5 magical beast. My trip was not in vain after all. These 50 gold coins weren't wasted. It really is a Class 5 magical beast's carcass. It seems like a magical skywing cow. After the Class 5 magical beast was revealed, the originally quiet auction house instantly buzzed to life. Everyone's gazes gathered on the Class 5 magical beast's body lying on the stage. The sounds of intense discussion and gasps of amazement overlapped ceaselessly. Among the people present, quite a few had lived for dozens of years, yet had never seen a Class 5 magical beast before now. Even though it was only a carcass, they already felt extremely fulfilled. Cough, cough. Suddenly, the sound of coughing spread throughout the entire auction house. With this noise, the loud and chaotic auction house gradually calmed down. The host standing on the stage smiled as he looked at the hundreds of thousands of people attending the auction and loudly declared, "Ladies and gentlemen, this magical beast carcass in front of me is the Class 5 magical beast magical skywing cow. Although it has already lost its monster core, it is still an expensive treasure. I'm sure that everyone sitting here knows that eating a Class 5 magical beast's meat for a long period of time will not only strengthen your body, but will also slightly improve your inner saint force. In addition, it is said that there is a chance that one can break through from the Great Saint Master level to the Earth Saint Master level." After hearing the host's last sentence, the originally calm auction house once again burst into a clamor. Everyone was staring intently at the Class 5 magical beast on the stage, filled with feelings of desire and greed. In the Tianyuan continent, such rumors did indeed state that consuming Class 5 magical beast meat over a long period of time would increase the chances of a Great Saint Master becoming an Earth Saint Master. Although an Earth Saint Master didn't seem to be much in name, it was actually an eminent and unapproachable existence to the thousands upon thousands of Great Saint Masters on the Tianyuan continent. The Earth Saint Master was only a single step away from the Great Saint Master, but this seemingly small gap blocked millions of people from progressing. There were many people on the Tianyuan continent who had lost their lives in attempt to break through and become an Earth Saint Master. This was because the requirement to advance was to smash one's own saint weapon into dust, and then rely on the ability to absorb large amounts of energy to refine each piece of the broken saint weapon over from the beginning, and finally recombine it. Only after completing this step could one successfully become an Earth Saint Master. However, saint weapons represented their owners. Once the saint weapon was damaged, the owner would also become injured through their link, and if a saint weapon was shattered, there would only be two results. The less severe result would be the user losing all of their saint force, and becoming a useless person that wasn't able to cultivate. The more severe result was directly sending their life to the underworld. For these reasons, less than 1% of the people on Tianyuan continent could successfully become Earth Saint Masters. If one failed, those that hadn't degenerated to becoming useless had died. This step alone blocked millions of Great Saint Masters, to the point where many of them that weren't willing to take the risk would eternally be stuck at their current realm until they died. This was why this Class 5 magical beast meat that could increase the chances of breaking through to Earth Saint Master by eating it made all of the people present beyond excited. At that moment, the host's voice resonated through the air once more. Right now, the carcass of the Class 5 magical beast magical skywing cow will be auctioned. The starting bid is 5,000 purple coins. Every time a new bet is proposed, it must be at least 100 purple coins higher than the previous bid. I bid 6,000 purple coins. As soon as the host finished his declaration, a bid was immediately heard from one of the VIP rooms. 6,500 purple coins, a voice from another VIP room declared. 6,600 purple coins, 6,700 purple coins, 7,000 purple coins. One after another, frighteningly high bids rang out from the VIP rooms in the auction house. Currently, none of the people sitting in the general area of the auction house could interject. If one wanted to purchase the Class 5 magical beast, they not only had to have enough money, they also had to have a certain amount of strength. Otherwise, as soon as they left the auction house, the Class 5 magical beast would get stolen from them. That's why the people fighting over the Class 5 magical beast right now had to have reached a certain level of power, and were not at all concerned about it being stolen from them. 8,000 purple coins. The fight over the Class 5 magical beast was extremely intense. In just the blink of an eye, the price had already risen to the astronomical value of 8,000 purple coins. Moreover, it was still rising, without showing any signs of stopping. 8,500 purple coins. This Class 5 magical beast carcass will be our Yulan clan's. If anyone dares to fight us for it, they'll make the entire Yulan clan their enemy. A deep voice echoed from one of the VIP rooms. Its tone was extremely arrogant, and it was evident that the person was determined to win. Yulan clan, as in Fire Cloud City's Yulan clan. It's actually the Yulan clan. They're Fire Cloud City's #1 clan and are extremely powerful. Even the Fire Cloud City's lord is extremely courteous to the Yulan clan. I didn't think that they'd come to attend this event. Hearing the words Yulan clan, the auction house immediately buzzed with conversation. Although the Yulan clan was not a power from Phoenix City, their strength was great enough that they had quite a bit of influence in nearby areas as well. Ha, Yulan clan's people, you can't say that. This place is an auction house. No matter what, it will go to the highest bidder. Our Harito clan will bid 10,000 purple coins. This Class 5 magical beast will be ours for sure. A slightly aged voice rang out from the opposite VIP room in response to the Yulan clan member. Isn't the Harito clan a power from Lust City? That's at least 1,000 miles away from Phoenix City. Who would have thought they'd come here as well? The Harito clan is extremely low profile. Although they aren't even ranked top 10 in Lust City, no other power dares to offend them. Even the largest clan in Lust City, the Bai clan, doesn't dare to look down on the Harito clan. Yeah, I remember a few years back, one of the rich, spoiled sons of the Bai clan offended the young princess of the Harito clan, and the boy was painfully beaten by the princess bodyguards. After that, the Bai clan didn't dare to even fart in the Harito clan's presence. It's said that the Harito clan is actually the strongest clan in Lust City. However, because they're extremely low-key, they normally don't show themselves, to the point where some people have never even heard of them. After the Harito clan had spoken, the only sounds heard were of a few people discussing among themselves. For a while, nobody else bid. Even the previously determined Yulan clan had suddenly fallen mute in a period of hesitation. Lust City, Harito clan. Jian Chen's heart raced as he mentally took note of this clan. Based on the scene unfolding in front of him, he could already see that the Harito clan was quite skilled. After a moment of silence, an extremely energetic, middle-aged man finally said from within another box, "Ha, I didn't think that even the Harito clan would be so interested in this Class 5 magical beast. In that case, our Mutian clan won't enter this fight over this magical beast. I hope that the Harito clan will yield the next one to us." "Ha, of course. Our Harito clan only needs one of them. We won't participate in the battle over the next one." The slightly aged voice from the Harito clan could be heard once more, this time with a hint of a smile in his tone. "In that case, our Luyan Jianga will also give the Harito clan some face, and give up on this Class 5 magical beast. Our Yang sect will also give up on it." After Harito clan's declaration, powers that weren't at all weak began to give up on the fight over the Class 5 magical beast one after another, giving the Harito clan some face. Hehe, Elder Harito gives thanks to everyone. An elder from the Harito clan laughed gently. After that, the body of the magical Skywing cow was given to the Harito clan for the successful bid of 10,000 purple coins. We shall now proceed to auction the second Class 5 magical beast. Bring it up. The host cried out as another group of people carried another stretcher with cloth. This time, the host didn't waste any time and immediately tore off the black cloth. This magical beast is yet another Class 5 magical beast, the Quick Cloud Beast. At the same time, this is also the last item we shall be auctioning off, and the rules for this item will remain the same. The starting price is at 5,000 purple coins, with each minimal bid being 100 purple coins more. As soon as the host finished talking, a frightening amount of prices started to be called out from the audience. Perhaps it was because this was the last Class 5 magical beast, everyone started to battle it out even more intensely than before. Quickly, the original price of 5,000 had reached up to triple its amount. 16,000 purple coins, 17,000 purple coins, 20,000 purple coins. In the time it took to boil a cup of tea, the price of the Quick Cloud Beast had reached a price of 20,000. Hearing the endlessly increasing price of purple coins, the seated Jian Chen couldn't help but let out a smile. Although the first Class 5 magical beast had sold for 10,000 purple coins, which was a bit on the low side, this second Class 5 magical beast had completely made up for the first loss. The Mutian clan bids 22,000 purple coins, the Yulan clan bids 23,000 purple coins, the Jialua clan bids 24,000 purple coins, the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion bids 25,000 purple coins, the Yang sect bids 26,000 purple coins, the Black Cloud School bids 27,000 purple coins. The prices continued to increase as many sides continued to fight bitterly over this Class 5 magical beast, with each increasing price of 1,000 purple coins. Quickly, the Class 5 magical beast had surpassed the 40,000 purple coin mark. The Yulan clan bids 45,000 purple coins. Immediately the Yulan clan offered the high price of 45,000 purple coins. Instantly, the entire auction house grew still, only to have a few people gasp in surprise. 45,000 purple coins was already far past something any major clan could afford. A Class 5 magical beast was rarely seen, but those in the bigger cities would be able to see it more often. Even this price was far more than the usual selling price. After all, a Quick Cloud Beast was only a normal Class 5 magical beast and not one like the silver-striped golden snake. Before the auction house could resume its price war, another voice called out, "The Mutian clan bids 46,000 purple coins." The Mutian clan had one-upped the pressure on the Yulan clan. Bang! A sound came from the Mutian clan's box. Then suddenly, another voice came out from the Yulan clan box. There was a total of 5 middle-aged men and an elder sitting in the Yulan clan VIP box. One of the middle-aged men dressed in a white robe heavily slammed his fist on the wooden table in front of him, creating an indent in it. "Mutian clan, you dare to make life difficult for us, the Yulan clan? Fine, we'll make you regret it." The white-robed middle-aged man said through clenched teeth, a dark expression on his face. The other people had unsightly expressions on their faces. "If we continue fighting like this, I'm afraid that the Class 5 magical beast's price will clamber up to a point that even we cannot reach," the elder said with a downcast expression. "What other choice do we have? This Class 5 magical beast has attracted quite a few people. Now, all the powers still fighting over it aren't any weaker than our Yulan clan," the white-robed middle-aged man said in exasperation. The Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion bids 47,000 purple coins. At this moment, another voice declared a price. Seeing the price climb higher and higher, the expressions of the few people from the Yulan clan became more and more unsightly. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed fiercely, and he shouted, "Yulan clan bids 50,000 purple coins." Chapter 175, Battle of Tigers and Dragons, 50,000 purple coins. This Yulan clan is definitely the #1 clan in Fire Cloud City. Their financial strength is so sturdy. The Yulan clan really does have a lot of money to shell out 50,000 purple coins for a Class 5 magical beast, despite the price far surpassing the standard price for one. As the Yulan clan gave another bid, the entire auction house suddenly descended into a buzz of chatter. Even Jian Chen had an unexpected look on his face. Indeed, a Class 5 magical beast was a precious treasure, but even it had a maximum price. 50,000 purple coins was already a number that was far beyond the limit. From the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion box, a few white-robed men had stony looks on their faces as they sat down. There was a total of 8 men, aside from a handsome 20-year-old and a petite flower-like woman. Everyone else were in their middle ages. That 20-year-old delicate woman said, "This Yulan clan is really determined to win this Class 5 magical beast. With the price this high, if we continue to fight for it, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion will end up paying most of our treasury for this Class 5 magical beast." Her voice was like the song of a spiritual bird, as it was very pleasant to listen to. "I've heard that the lord of the Yulan clan is preparing to tackle the Earth Saint Master threshold. If he has the support of the Class 5 magical beast, then despite it not giving him a definite success rate, it will at the very least improve his chances by a lot. To them, this Class 5 magical beast is surely important." A middle-aged man replied. "My master has already been at the peak of the Great Saint Master level for tens of years now. Since he isn't able to cross the threshold and make the breakthrough into the Earth Saint Master level, he can only linger about in his original realm of power. If we can obtain the Class 5 magical beast, then my master will surely be able to make the breakthrough. In the case that my master does indeed become an Earth Saint Master, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion will surely grow stronger in power." The 20-year-old youth said. At the mention of his master, there was a hint of pride on his face. That was because his master was the lord of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion. Another white-robed middle-aged man said, "What you said is correct. We too want to win over this Class 5 magical beast. While it would be easier to obtain a Class 5 magical beast in a king city, the nearest king city to our location is too far away for us to make the trip undisturbed. Even if we were to obtain a Class 5 magical beast there, transporting it out of the king city would be a challenge of its own. That would be no good, we would be attacked there for it. The best choice for us is to get the one right in front of us." With that said, another middle-aged man spoke with a grim face. "Vice Pavilion Lord, do you think we should continue bidding for this then?" The man hesitated as he listened to the man before nodding his head. "The Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion bids 55,000 purple coins." With that said, everyone in the auction hall gasped. Suddenly, another voice cried out with angry over the gasps of the audience. "The Yulan clan bids 60,000 purple coins." Hearing the newest price, a few of the men within the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion had ugly expressions on their faces. 65,000 purple coins. In the short moment of silence, the Vice Pavilion Lord spoke out a higher price. By now, many of the influential powers had already long since pulled out of this struggle for the Class 5 magical beast. There was only the Yulan clan and the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion left to fight for it. Bang! From the Yulan clan's box, the sounds of a fist slamming into a table could be heard as the Yulan clan was infuriated by the other side's actions. Just as quickly as the sound came, the auction hall grew silent as everyone looked toward the Yulan clan box. "Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion, this Class 5 magical beast is needed by our Yulan clan. Would it be too much to ask for you to hand it over? After this, the Yulan clan will offer our thanks." An elderly voice came from the box. There was an undeniably angry voice that couldn't be hidden at all. "My apologies, but our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion is also in need of this Class 5 magical beast. If you can increase the price beyond our amount, then we will give it up." An elderly voice came from the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion box. The voice wasn't hard to hear, so everyone knew it was the vice leader of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion. "Good, Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion, our Yulan clan will remember this. 70,000 purple coins. The Yulan clan elder gnashed his teeth as he called out a price. This time, the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion didn't call out a price. After waiting for a few more seconds, the host on the stand finally spoke out. This Class 5 Quick Cloud Beast has been offered to the Yulan clan for 70,000 purple coins. Does anyone wish to bid even higher? The entire 10,000 people in the audience all were quiet. After waiting a few more moments, the host didn't hear any more prices, so he said, going once for 70,000 purple coins to the Yulan clan, inside the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion. Vice Pavilion Lord, the Yulan clan has a considerable amount of power within Fire Cloud City, but our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion isn't any weaker than they are. We shouldn't give up on this Class 5 magical beast. Phoenix City isn't too far away from our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion, and even with us requiring plenty of security to transport it back, this is a hard-to-come-by opportunity. A middle-aged man said. AI. Hearing this, the vice leader let out a breath of air. We aren't afraid of the Yulan clan, but this Class 5 magical beast has already far surpassed what price we could manage to support. Our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion isn't as rich as the Yulan clan. And even if we were to buy the Class 5 magical beast, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion would be in dire straits financially, which would not be favorable to us. Could it be with such a good opportunity, we are giving it up? A youth lamented. There's no other choice than to renounce it. Even if we obtain the Class 5 magical beast, it does not mean the Pavilion Lord would be able to make the breakthrough. In the case that he fails, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion would suffer tremendous damages that we can't afford to lose. The vice leader said. Hearing this, everyone could only nod their heads in silence. Making a breakthrough from a great Saint Master to an Earth Saint Master was indescribably hard. Even with the help of Class 5 magical beast meat, the success rate was not 100%. In the case that it failed, the person would become nothing more than a cripple who would be better off dead. Going twice to the Yulan clan for 70,000 purple coins, are there any more takers? Going thrice to the Yulan clan for 1 moment. Chapter 176, Gray-Robed Man, I bid 100,000 purple coins. A deep-sounding voice suddenly called out from the middle of the auction hall. Although the voice wasn't that loud, everyone in the auction hall clearly heard it. Hearing the price of 100,000 purple coins, everyone in the auction hall became stunned. Not just them, but even the Yulan clan members inside their box had looks of disbelief on their faces. 100,000 purple coins. The Class 5 magical beast was a treasure, but they weren't so precious to be priceless. 70,000 purple coins was already considered expensive for a Class 5 magical beast, but 100,000 purple coins was extremely past what the proper price should be. The entire auction hall grew extremely quiet as the price of 100,000 purple coins were called out. In this silence, if a silver needle were to be dropped, then its echoes would be heard by everyone clearly. Jian Chen, who was sitting down in a corner, was startled at the price, but he was also very happy. Since he was the seller, he had naturally wanted his items to sell for as high as possible. For the price to shoot straight to 100,000 purple coins from 70,000, Jian Chen had not expected that. What surprised him even more was that the person who had just called out the newest price was sitting in a private box not too far away from him. Jian Chen slowly turned his head toward the source of the sound only to see a gray-robed man. He was an elderly man who looked to be around his 60s. His black hair grew around his head like a flower which accented his wrinkled face. The entire auction hall was still quiet for a few more seconds before instantly exploding into chatter. Everyone couldn't help but look at the person who called out the price, but only a handful of people knew where that person was in the audience. Even the host had been startled by this huge price and had to take a moment to regain himself. His face shook along with his voice as he said, 100,000 purple coins. 100,000 purple coins, someone has offered 100,000 purple coins, does anyone wish to beat that price? Within the Yulan clan box, a few of the members had ashen faces. Not a single one of them said a word as they were too shocked at the high price. 100,000 purple coins, going once. Are there any higher bids? 100,000 purple coins going twice. 100,000 purple coins going thrice. Sold. The auctioneer fiercely swung down his wooden mallet. The second-class 5 magical beast, the quick cloud beast, was finally bought for 100,000 purple coins. Alright, this auction will now officially come to a close. Thank you everyone for attending. A year from today, we will meet together again. I'd like to now invite the guests that purchased items to come to backstage and retrieve them. The auctioneer Gurong gave a brilliant smile. He had already directed the auctions at Heavenly Phoenix Auction House for dozens of years, but this was the grandest one he had ever conducted. After all, an item worth 100,000 purple coins had been sold by him. This was definitely a supreme honor for an auctioneer. After the auction ended, the people that had purchased items left their seats and began to head toward the backstage to exchange the appropriate amount of money for their items. Jian Chen hesitated for a bit, then stood up as well, and began to walk toward the backstage. The money he gained from auctioning off the 2 Class 5 magical beasts also had to be retrieved from back there. By the time Jian Chen arrived behind the stage, the place was already filled with people. This was where everyone picked up the things they had purchased. Hundreds of people were alertly and quietly lined up, their hands holding a small card that the auction house had specially issued. Honored Wu Yun, Manager Yoyan is awaiting for you in the guest room, please follow me. At that moment, an elder voice rang out from Jian Chen's side. It was the Heavenly Phoenix Auction House's appraiser, Elder Huang Lao. Jian Chen's appearance was still that of the middle-aged male, so Elder Huang recognized him immediately. Amen. Then I'll have to ask Elder Huang to lead the way. Jian Chen politely replied with a smile. Elder Huang didn't waste any time speaking, and immediately turned around to walk inside. Jian Chen followed closely behind. Before Jian Chen had gotten very far, he suddenly stopped walking and turned around to look back at the door he had just come through. 2 people wearing gray robes were strolling over from that door, side by side. One of them was an elder, the other a middle-aged man. The elder was the one that had offered 100,000 purple coins to purchase the Class 5 magical beast, the quick cloud beast. Esteemed guests, please come with me. A staff member welcomed them as soon as the 2 men appeared. Lead the way. The elder said indifferently. Afterward, they followed behind the staff member toward the staircase to the 2nd floor. Freeze! A loud shout suddenly rang out. A few middle-aged men aggressively rushed over from the door, surrounding the gray-robed men. This scene attracted the attentions of all the people engaging in item transactions. They all turned around to closely watch the scene unfolding, as if they were engrossed in watching some play. The staff member's expression didn't waver. He had witnessed this type of scene multiple times. In a reconciling tone, he said, "Honored guests, this is Heavenly Phoenix Auction H, get out of the way." Before the staff member had even finished speaking, he was fiercely pushed back by one of the men, his arms so forceful that it directly sent the staff member flying back 10 meters, before crashing hard into the wall with a bang. The staff member's head collided into the hard wall, causing him to directly lose consciousness. The wall also now sported traces of fresh blood. Jian Chen's expression shifted at this scene, and a hint of a powerful murderous aura flashed from his eyes. He really couldn't bear to watch these people's barbaric and unreasonable actions. However, he didn't blindly rush into the fight, since he knew that going in now wouldn't be favorable to him. There were surely many people that had heard the news about the Class 5 monster cores. Seeing the staff members' removal from the stage, the 2 gray-robed men furrowed their brows. Without letting them say anything, the middle-aged man that had pushed the staff member pointed his sharp gaze at the elder and asked, "Are you the one that bought the Class 5 magical beast for 100,000 purple coins?" Chapter 177, Earth Saint Master. Hearing the middle-aged man, everyone's heart jumped for a brief second. Staring slack-jawed at the gray-robed man, none of them had thought that the person who had spent 100,000 purple coins on a simple Class 5 magical beast would be this ordinary-looking elder in front of them. The gray-robed man laughed. "Correct, I am indeed the buyer." With a tone of indifference. Hearing this, the middle-aged man who spoke earlier and a happy look on his face. Staring him down to measure the elder's strength, he said, "Good, good. To go against my Yulan clan. But what an impatient movement you've made. Be smart and hand over the Class 5 magical beast, otherwise, you won't be at ease." So these people are a part of the Yulan clan. To think that they are that arrogant to bring people into the auction house do however they please. Seeing how rampant these Yulan clan members were, Jian Chen furrowed his eyebrows together in thought. The gray-robed elder and the man next to him looked at each other with a small trace of a smile. Then, the elder's indifferent face gradually grew colder before turning to the middle-aged man in front of him. "The Yulan clan isn't anything in my eyes, scram. Are you looking for death? Seeing how difficult you're being, you're an old fool for not obeying." The Yulan clan member grew furious as he flew toward the elderly man with his arm outstretched. The moment the middle-aged man reached out with his hand, his eyes widened abruptly as he felt the palm of the elder's hands wrap around his neck. With no idea of when the elder had even reached him, he felt his throat tighten, causing him to choke. The middle-aged man's eyes turned wide as he looked down in disbelief at the hand holding him. There was shock as he hadn't noticed at all when the man had grabbed him by the throat. The elder continued to squeeze the man's neck with a small sneer on his face as he spoke. "Youngster, you are too rash in things. If you end up losing your life, do not blame anyone else." With that said, the elder swung his arm, and the heavy body of the man was suddenly flung to the far side as if he was no heavier than a chick. Slamming into a wall, the amount of force put into the throw caused the wall to shake. With this sudden and unexpected development, the other Yulan members were stunned. Seeing their member suddenly flung against the wall, a few of them had grew white in the face. Taking out their saint weapons, they all charged with some hesitation at the elder. "Humph, you overestimate yourselves." The gray-robed elder snorted with a cold gleam in his eyes. A bright red glow appeared within his right hand as the temperature in the room suddenly increased. With the middle-aged men coming at him, the fiery glow in his hands suddenly scattered in every direction as if a shooting star with sparks was flying out from his palm and struck every single saint weapon aimed at him. Ding 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 ding, just as the sparks and saint weapons collided, a crisp sound was heard as the saint weapons from the Yulan clan side suddenly snapped in two. PFT. The men suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood as if they had just been struck heavily. Taking a few steps back, their faces had instantly grew white without a single trace of blood. While a small amount of them were standing unsteadily, a moment later they immediately fell to the floor without getting back up. Seeing these people have their saint weapons broken, the onlookers had a look of joy on their faces. In their hearts, they all understood that these incomparably arrogant Yulan clan members were utterly finished. Even if they somehow survived, they would fall to the lowest dregs of people on the Tianyuan continent, cripples. However, all of the people there were even more amazed at the overwhelming strength of this elder. With the snap of a finger, he had broken the saint weapons of these strong men. With such a strong attack, just what level of strength had he achieved? Little master, for these types of people, handing them over to Elder Xiao will be enough. There is no need to get involved personally. A dim glow returned to the elder's eyes as he turned toward the middle-aged man to his side with a respectful tone. The middle-aged man simply let his arms fall back down as he walked over to the unconscious men and spoke indifferently, "I cannot stand these people. This will be their punishment to see if they can survive this. Let's see how they will fare with their luck." For the tiny Yulan clan to be crazy to this extent, humph. Saying this, he squatted down to where the worker who was first knocked down to look at his wounds. These are only some small superficial wounds, nothing serious. After a basic look over, the middle-aged man let out a breath in relief as he took out a ring hidden within his sleeves and placed it on his finger. Bringing out some medicine from his space ring, he began to dab it onto the back of the man's head. Seeing the middle-aged man's current action, the gray-robed elder could only shake his head. This young master of his was ruthless to his enemies, but honest and kind to any other regular person. This type of attitude wasn't something he saw often enough. For the Yulong clan to do something like this, they are looking for disaster. Elder Huang sighed before turning back to Jian Chen. Honored Wu Yun, please follow me. Jian Chen nodded his head as he looked at the two gray-robed men before following Elder Huang out of the area. In his heart, he was not as calm as he was on the outside. I didn't think these two men would unexpectedly be such profound experts. If my estimations aren't off, then even that other middle-aged man was also an Earth Saint Master. Jian Chen followed behind Elder Huang through to the second floor of the auction house before entering a more elegant-looking room. After entering the guest room, Jian Chen saw the manager of the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Yelyin, who was sitting calmly by one of the tables. It looked as if she had been sitting there for some time already. Honored Wu Yun, after being gone for so long, you've finally returned. Yelyin had a gentle smile on her face. Jian Chen returned the laugh with no other word and sat down on the sofa in front of Yelyin. Elder Huang, who had led him to the room, didn't enter it, and instead closed the door and left. Chapter 178, Incoming Trouble. Seeing the mature charm of Yelyin, Jian Chen still maintained a calm and tranquil feeling in his heart. Manager Yelyin, now that the Class 5 magical beast has been sold, will the money be handed over to me? Yelyin laughed gently. Honored Wu Yun, please wait for a moment. While the Class 5 magical beast was indeed sold, the actual transaction will still need some time. Nodding his head, Jian Chen didn't say anything else and sat down to wait. He knew that the auction had only just finished. They would need to conduct the transactions between the bidder for each item. So he had to wait for the transactions to be finished before he could collect the money from the auction house. Seeing how absent-minded Jian Chen was, Yelyin furrowed her eyebrows. With her mature appearance and beautiful appeal, she had a look of dissatisfaction. After hesitating for a brief moment, she spoke softly. Honored Wu Yun, what part of the continent did you come from? Hearing this, Jian Chen laughed. This one was born in a faraway and isolated village with no name. Even if this one were to say the name of the village, Manager Yelyin won't know, so it's better to not say. After that, Yelyin continued to try and engage Jian Chen in conversation by asking questions about himself in order to try and establish some sort of information on him. However, Jian Chen wasn't an inexperienced youngster anymore. Although Yelyin had skillfully used her expertise with words to try and trap Jian Chen into letting some personal information slip out, every answer she received was not up to her satisfaction. Every single time Jian Chen had answered her, the information she had wanted to hear had never appeared. Whatever piece of information that seemed promising was actually useless. It seems this Wu Yun is not a simple person. Trying to find the information I want from his mouth is a difficult task. Yelyin felt a headache as she thought to herself. Seeing Yelyin have a small amount of anger appear on her face, Jian Chen laughed to himself secretly. Thump thump thump, at that moment, a series of knocks could be heard. Hearing this sound, Yelyin straightened in her seat, and reached out to press an inconspicuous button on the sofa. The drawing room door silently opened. Outside it stood a charming-looking, 20-year-old girl wearing a uniform. Manager Yelyin, Elder Huang wanted me to give this space belt to you. The servant said to Yelyin in a low voice. Hand it over. Yes, ma'am. The servant entered the drawing room and handed Yelyin the space belt. Her gaze lingered on Jian Chen's face for a bit before she retreated back out of the room. Yelyin inspected the items contained in the space belt, then gently placed it down on the table as she smiled. Mr. Wu Yun, the total amount of 110,000 purple coins that you earned from selling the Class 5 magical beasts is all in there. You can check yourself. Jian Chen took the space belt and inspected its contents. 11 neat piles of glittering purple coins could be seen inside the space belt. With each pile containing exactly 10,000, 11 piles gave an exact total of 110,000 purple coins. Having obtained his money, Jian Chen had no intention to stay any longer. He stood up from the sofa and gestured politely at Youyan, Manager Youyan, if there is nothing else, then I will bid farewell. With this, he turned around and began to head toward the door. Mr. Wu Yun, please wait for a bit. Youyan suddenly called out to Jian Chen. Jian Chen stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at Youyan. Manager Youyan, could it be that you have something more to tell me? He asked flatly. Youyan hesitated for a bit before saying, Mr. Wu Yun, if you have a Class 5 monster core, then our Heavenly Phoenix auction house is willing to purchase it for any price you want. In addition, we can also keep it a secret. There's no harm in considering this offer. Jian Chen smiled apologetically, I'm really sorry, Manager Youyan. I do not possess a Class 5 monster core. Without waiting for her to reply, Jian Chen opened the door and left. Watching Jian Chen disappear from her sight, Youyan sighed and said, I was originally just trying to give you a warning. Since you're in such a hurry to leave, I can't be bothered to say it anymore. The major powers that came this time are rather complicated, whether or not you can survive this crisis will depend on your strength. After he left the Heavenly Phoenix auction house, Jian Chen stood there in front of the entrance and scanned his surroundings. As expected, there were many traces of suspicious people surrounding him. Jian Chen didn't pause for long, and began to walk at a normal pace toward a crowded street. However, before he could get very far, his expression suddenly changed. Using his powerful spirit's acute perceptive abilities, he could clearly sense hundreds of gazes coming from all directions at him. Jian Chen's heart sank as he realized that he was at a slight disadvantage. Could it be that those powers have already figured out that I was the one that auctioned off the 2 Class 5 magical beasts? Or maybe the Heavenly Phoenix auction house revealed my identity. Although he realized that the situation wasn't really in his favor, Jian Chen's expression remained calm. He maintained his normal pace, as if there was absolutely nothing wrong with the situation, and continued to head toward the bustling street. As Jian Chen left the auction house, some of the people spread around the area began to leave their positions and follow closely behind Jian Chen. Sensing the movements of the people behind him, Jian Chen couldn't help but sneer. The hot blood that had been silent within him for so long began to boil once more. Ever since he had reached the peak Saint Master level, Jian Chen hadn't once fought against a person. He really wanted to experiment and see how many of his attacks a great Saint Master would be able to endure now that he was a peak Saint Master. Sire, please stop. At that moment, a few middle-aged men wearing black suddenly blocked Jian Chen's path. Jian Chen stopped in his tracks and indifferently looked at the middle-aged men. Gentlemen, do you have any business with me? One of the men smiled and said, We are members of Phoenix City's Haiming clan. Sire, our Haiming clan has no ill intentions toward you, we would only like to invite you to become our Haiming clan's guest. Haiming clan. Hearing this, Jian Chen's heart skipped a beat. During his past few days at Phoenix City, he had definitely heard of this clan before. They were a power native to Phoenix City, and were strong enough to be one of the 3 great clans here. I thank Haiming clan for their invitation, but I still have things I must do, so I really cannot become your guest. Jian Chen tactfully refused. The clansman's expressions didn't change at this response. The one that had first spoken continued, Mr. Wu Yun, there are quite a few powers that know you now. Your current circumstances are extremely bleak. We, the Haiming clan, are the only ones that can save you. Please consider our offer. Chapter 179, Caught in a Siege. There was a look of joy on the man's eye as he heard Jian Chen's response. This phrase was something he had long since been expecting to hear. He had wanted Jian Chen to obediently follow them back to the Haiming clan, but this desire wasn't shown on his face. Come with us back to the Haiming clan immediately, otherwise, when all of the experts arrive by nightfall, even the Haiming clan will be powerless to help you. A nearly undetectable glint of ridicule flashed through Jian Chen's eyes as he replied, "Could it be that if I were to come back with you to the Haiming clan, then the Hemming clan would definitely save me? Did you not just say that there were many influential powers after me? Could it be that the Haiming clan is able to withstand the assault of attacks from every direction?" The man laughed confidently. "Of course, while I admit that the powers after you are indeed strong and can almost compete on the same level as our Haiming clan, but don't you forget that our Haiming clan is strong enough to be the local power of Phoenix City. Also, the Haiming clan has secretly joined with a few other clans, so if you agree to cooperate with us, then you will be safe from the other powers." "Oh, so it was like that?" Jian Chen nodded his head as if he had suddenly realized something. "Come quickly with me then, the night is quickly approaching. Our men can only hold them off for a small moment. If we take too long, then the situation will become drastic." Believing Jian Chen had already agreed to return to the Haiming clan, the man began to run off in a direction. However, before he could get too far, he immediately stopped and turned around to look at the non-moving Jian Chen with furrowed eyebrows. "Why aren't you moving?" Jian Chen had some doubt on his face. "Where to?" Hearing Jian Chen, the man felt fear in his heart as he realized this wouldn't go as smoothly as he thought. "Where else?" "Of course we are going back to the Haiming clan, or did you want to die somewhere else?" "But, I never said I would go with you." Jian Chen spoke with no emotion. The faces of every Haiming clan member changed abruptly as the head of the group also had a dark expression on his face as he stared at Jian Chen coldly. "Wu Yun, are you playing with us?" Jian Chen laughed. "I'm not playing with you. Did you hear me say that I would head back to the Haiming clan with you?" The middle-aged man let out a breath of air before taking in another deep breath as his glare turned malicious. Laughing angrily, he said, "Good. Very good. Wu Yun, you've refused to drink a cup in toast, so you will instead drink a cup in defeat. Don't blame us for being impolite." With that, the middle-aged man charged at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's eyes flashed coldly as he brought out his own personal saint weapon. Quickly a thin and slender silver sword appeared in his right hand. Against these Haiming clan members, Jian Chen could tell that the difference between their strengths was as clear as day. The middle-aged man that had spoken out to him first was a primary great saint master, and the other men with him were only at the peak saint master level. A display of strength like this was not a threat at all to Jian Chen. Seeing the men charge at him, Jian Chen's light wind sword began to emit a hazy glow over its edges as a sign of the sword chi sharpening the sword. Then, with a single thrust, an extremely loud sound echoed through the streets that shook even the buildings. "Ha! Haiming clansmen, your movements are truly fast." Suddenly, an extremely intense amount of sword chi rose up and shot toward the middle-aged man. With this sudden change, the man's face grew extremely serious as he felt the strong amount of sword chi emanating from the object flying at him. With a mental sigh to himself, his heart knew that the chance to capture Jian Chen had been lost. With a grunting sound, a strong amount of saint force filled his hands as a two-handed sword appeared. He used it to swing down at the speeding sword chi flying toward him. The moment Jian Chen saw that sword, his legs tapped against the ground as he retreated backward. Bang! Just as Jian Chen retreated, a large amount of energy smashed into the ground below and kicked up a strong gale of dust and rubble. The sounds of devastation echoed in every direction as even the nearby shops had been hit by the shockwave. The fortunate bystanders on the streets that weren't hit immediately jumped away from the area with no hesitation. With how common wars were in the Tianyuan continent, this event was nothing new to anyone, so the bystanders did not have any looks of fear or even shock. After the shock wave had dissipated, the middle-aged man from the Haiming clan stood in his original position with a serious expression. At the same time, a group of people approached Jian Chen's direction from behind him. Even the tops of nearby buildings had many people leaping toward the commotion to get at Jian Chen. It took only a moment for the entire street to be filled with hundreds of people that formed an impenetrable crowd. Even the nearby rooftops were filled with people. Anyone unrelated to this matter should leave immediately. A voice suddenly called out, causing all bystanders to feel the need to leave the area. After that, the crowd formed an empty passageway for the bystanders to leave from quickly. Seeing the surrounding people outnumber him by 100 at the very least, Jian Chen's face finally grew more serious than usual. Among this group, he could feel that many of them were rather strong, while the others were at the very least at the great Saint Master level. Chapter 180. Here is my offer at this moment. An elderly man wearing an expensive red robe examined the crowd of people around him before letting out a smile. How lively this area is, to have so many influential people in the vicinity. How rare indeed. Truly, this is a seldom seen view. This old man hasn't seen such a sight in many years. Old man Yu Ping, you should have stayed behind with your Qing clan. There was no need for you to come visit Phoenix City. Another black-haired elder stood on top of one of the rooftops. The elder named Yu Ping laughed coldly as he stared at the other crane-hairstyled elder and said, Huang Pingshu, for you to come to Phoenix City, could it be you wanted to block me from doing as I please? Old devil Pingyu, I have not forgotten about that time 5 years ago. With this opportunity, why don't we end this once and for all? Huang Pingshu stared at the elder Pingyu and spoke in a cold tone that clearly expressed his killing intent. That's right, it's about time I repay the debt from 5 years ago. The red-robed elder spoke. A large amount of saint force gathered in his hand, quickly condensing into curved blade 33 meters long. By this point, both elders' attitudes had become serious. The middle-aged man by the red-robed elder walked to him and said, Honored Yu Ping, now is not the time to settle your grudges. It would be best to finish what is in front of us first before resolving the grievances between you two. The red-robed elder nodded his head, whatever. Huang Pingshu, with this current situation, now isn't the time. Let us wait for this matter in front of us to be done first before we resolve our grievances. The other elder looked at Jian Chen briefly, knowing that now was the opportunity for something else before snorting, then I'll let you off for now. At this moment, a group of people was traveling on the two sides of the streets. From their fast speed but relative pacing, anyone that saw them could see that they were a part of the same group. As that group grew closer, those men who were standing by the sides of the houses they walked past, quickly let them pass. The men stopped at the side of a house with an even stare at Jian Chen, who was in the middle of the besiegement of men. This must be the Honorable Wu Yun. Jian Chen turned his head to see a white-robed, middle-aged man with only an inch of hair on his head and a scar on his face. Jian Chen said, Correct, I am Wu Yun. What made everyone here gather so many people to stop me? I don't know the reason. Honorable Wu Yun, this old man wants to ask, the 2 Class 5 magical beast bodies, were they not produced by you? The red-robed elder questioned. Jian Chen couldn't help but laugh faintly. I didn't think that a nameless person like me would garner the attention of so many influential people. However, your investigations are correct. The person who brought those 2 Class 5 magical beasts to the auction house was me. Despite having many people of power surrounding him, Jian Chen didn't have a single shred of fear on his face. In front of this 100 people encirclement, he was laughing as if nothing had happened. Honorable Wu Yun, this one here is the vice leader of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion, Zhou Tong. Since you had the Class 5 magical beast bodies, then it can be assumed that you also have the Class 5 monster cores. Our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion is willing to offer a price of your satisfaction and buy this monster core. Would the Honorable Wu Yun agree? Of course, if the Honorable Wu Yun were to sell a Class 5 monster core, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion will become your friend. If you were to come across any problems, then our Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion will definitely help you resolve it. Will the Honorable Wu Yun agree? Zhou Tong stood on the rooftops with a faint smile. After Zhou Tong had spoken, another dark-skinned and sturdy person spoke out, Honorable Wu Yun, I am from the Yang sect. I do not like coddling around, so I will speak bluntly. Of the 2 Class 5 monster cores in your hands, the Yang sect is willing to buy one of them. The price we offer will be to your satisfaction. but will the Honorable Wu Yun agree to sell one? Seeing these two major powers ask for the Class 5 monster cores, the other influential powers didn't wish to lag behind. Sire Wu Yun, we are from the Yulan clan. Although we are not considered as anything major on the Tian Yuan continent, there isn't a single person that would not try to please our Yulan clan in Fire Cloud City. As long as the Honorable Wu Yun sells us a Class 5 monster core, then the Yulan clan can guarantee a comfortable stay within Fire Cloud City without anyone trying to cause trouble. A man in an expensive robe spoke out. Sire Wu Yun, I am from the Mutian clan. Sire Wu Yun, we are from the Cater clan. Every single person there began to open their mouths to buy a Class 5 monster core from Jian Chen. Seeing at least 10 sides of powers cry out, Jian Chen bitterly smiled. I am afraid to disappoint everyone, but I do not have any Class 5 monster cores. Although it was indeed I who brought these two Class 5 magical beasts to be sold, they were not killed by me, I merely found their bodies. Ha, the Honorable Wu Yun doesn't need to try to cover it up anymore. The body of a Class 5 magical beast is valuable enough that even a Heaven Saint Master wouldn't leave it behind. Moreover, we've already inspected the Class 5 magical beast bodies only to find that these two magical beasts had fought each other to death, and were then later found by a person. From the wounds, it was easy to tell that a man-made wound was done by a weaker person, who then tried to extract the monster core. This means that it is indeed the honored Wu Yun, without a doubt. An elder laughed, almost as if he was discussing the weather with some friends. That's right, Sire Wu Yun, we only wish to buy the Class 5 monster cores from you, not steal them. Even if you sell them to us, you won't lose out. These Class 5 monster cores aren't safe with you, and keeping them on you would surely bring about disaster. If you were to sell them to us, then you could earn a great sum of money to the point of not needing to worry about clothes or food anymore. Even then, you would be able to buy many monster cores to cultivate your own strength. Someday in the future, you could break through to become a great Saint Master, or even an Earth Saint Master. What have you to lose? Zhou Tong of the Flowing Cloud Sword Pavilion spoke out. Chapter 181, Few against many. Now that the situation had escalated to this, Jian Chen knew that aside from a body search, there was no other way they would believe him. If they searched him, they would look in his space belt, and that could not be allowed to happen. Excluding the two Class 5 monster cores lying peacefully within, if they were to discover his space ring, Class 4 monster cores, and the large amount of purple coins, then the hearts of everyone here would harbor wicked thoughts. Jian Chen knew that hiding anything was useless at this point. Although there were many people here, he was still not afraid. He took a look around himself. With so many strong people that could easily capture him releasing such a strong amount of chi, he began to laugh. Since everyone has figured it out, I don't need to hide it anymore. You are correct, the Class 5 monster cores are on my body. But I only have these two monster cores. How does everyone here plan to share the monster cores with so many people? Jian Chen's words caused everyone present to grow hesitant. The Class 5 magical beasts were precious, but the Class 5 monster cores were undoubtedly even more precious. No one was willing to give them up so easily. They knew in their hearts as well that there were only two Class 5 monster cores, and there were at least 10 different powers here. Each side was a major power in their respective area with very little gaps between them all, so splitting the two monster cores among them would be a huge problem. In a moment, the atmosphere around Jian Chen had become strange. Everyone's eyes began to turn cold as every single person who had been festive a moment ago suddenly gained a killing intent. However, this atmosphere didn't last long before an elderly voice broke the silence. Sire Wu Yun, the issue of how to split the monster cores is something that we'll naturally discuss later. There is no need for you to worry about it. For now, just bring out the Class 5 monster cores. Jian Chen turned towards the one that spoke, only to see a relatively short, white-robed elder. He only reached up to Jian Chen's chest, and his face was full of wrinkles. But beneath those wrinkles lay eyes that shone brightly. The elder's voice was relatively calm, but the meaning behind his words carried some ill intent. Jian Chen coldly laughed as he replied, Elder, I apologize, but I will keep these 2 Class 5 monster core. They aren't for sale. Jian Chen emphasized the last sentence extremely strongly with hesitation, leaving no room for further discussion. The moment everyone heard that Jian Chen wasn't going to sell the monster cores, everyone's expressions suddenly changed, and looked at Jian Chen with cold gazes. Quite a few people didn't even bother to conceal their strong killing intents. If it weren't for the fact that over 10 powers were simultaneously targeting the Class 5 monster cores, making the situation more complicated, these people probably wouldn't have bothered speaking to Jian Chen politely. They would have taken the initiative to take them by force ages ago. Spending money to purchase the Class 5 monster cores wasn't their original intention at all. Honorable Wu Yun, those 2 Class 5 monster cores will only bring you trouble if they remain in your possession, and may even be the cause of your death. You had better choose carefully. A golden-robed, refined-looking youth who looked to be around 30 years old said. This man was from the Mutian clan. That's correct, Sire Wu Yun, it wouldn't be proper for the Class 5 monster cores to remain in your possession. You should sell them to us. A Jialua clan member said. Soon after that, every other clan began to demand for Jian Chen to sell the cores, but no one mentioned a price. Jian Chen knew all too well just how precious these Class 5 monster cores were. Since he had tens of thousands of purple coins in his space belt, he had no shortage of money. Thus, he had absolutely no desire to sell them. Jian Chen cupped his hands together in an apologetic manner. Gentlemen, I am truly sorry. This one won't be selling the monster cores. There are some important matters this one must attend to, so this one won't be accompanying everyone any longer. With that, Jian Chen turned to leave with a casual and carefree face, but he had long since prepared himself to be ready to strike at any second. You've refused to drink the toast, so drink the wine of punishment. Jian Chen's course of action had angered many of the men there, and instantly, those of the Saint Master level immediately charged toward Jian Chen in an attempt to seize him. The movements of these men were like the fuse to a fire. The very moment they charged at Jian Chen, people from each clan immediately followed suit. Some of the people charged at Jian Chen, while some were blocking the others trying to steal from Jian Chen. At this moment, everyone knew in their hearts that if they wanted a Class 5 monster core, the best way to obtain one would be to steal it from Jian Chen. Every single great Saint Master expert had already seen that Jian Chen's strength was only at the peak Saint Master level. To the clans, this type of strength could only be classified as not bad, so there was absolutely no need to worry about him. Seeing the people come at him, Jian Chen faintly sneered, and a killing intent flashed in his eyes. Despite these clansmen having strong powers supporting them that shouldn't be provoked, if he were to let these men bully him without retaliating, then he wouldn't dare call himself Jian Chen. He was not a man who was afraid of getting involved in trouble. His silver light wind sword appeared instantly in his right hand as it flashed with a silver glow. In another instant, it flew lightning fast towards the people that charged at him. Because of the sword's extremely fast speed, those men that were only at the Saint Master level hadn't anticipated his sword coming at them with such blinding speed. They could barely catch a glimpse of the sword. By the time they were finally able to react, the light wind sword had already ruthlessly pierced their throats. Not a single person was able to evade it. After reaching the peak Saint Master level, Jian Chen's inner strength and essence had swiftly improved. Any Saint Master opponent, unless they had the Wind Saint force, would not be able to dodge his attacks. In the blink of an eye, a few Saint Master experts had died to Jian Chen's sword. With this sudden display of battle strength, those who had wanted to rob Jian Chen of his monster cores suddenly turned pale with fright before becoming even more vigilant. Carefully holding their saint weapons in front of them, they continued to slowly approach Jian Chen. Even after killing those few men, Jian Chen continued to move forward with his course of action. His feet stepped across the ground with the speed of a demon as he disappeared from sight. The next time he reappeared, he was already 3 meters ahead of where he used to be, and was running toward the furthest person who wanted to steal from him. Chapter 182, no fear following the twinkling light of Jian Chen's sword. 3 of the people in the back of the incoming group instantly had their throats stabbed with the sharp tip of the sword. At the same time, the other men near Jian Chen's figure started to wave their saint weapons with a strong amount of saint force as they slashed at him. Even with the saint weapons slashing at him, Jian Chen didn't spare them a single glance. Almost as if he had eyes on the back of his head, he slanted his body slightly so that the weapons would just miss him. Ding! Not a single one of the saint weapons had hit Jian Chen. Because their target was Jian Chen, each saint weapon collided against each other in mid-air and echoed in a small symphony of metal sounds. As the numerous saint weapons all collided against each other, the amount of energy could be seen spiraling into the air. Jian Chen's eyes flashed dangerously as he took advantage of the stagnated saint weapons. In a flash the light wind sword emitted a hazy glow that enshrouded everyone nearby. The saint weapon shined with light, and with the trail of sword chi following the tip, it resembled the scythe of the god of death. With each stroke, the blade flew at the throat of each person and landed a fatal blow that spilled blood from their wounds. In a short moment that wasn't even long enough to make one full breath, around 10 more saint masters had died by Jian Chen's hands. Another flash of killing intent could be seen in Jian Chen's eyes as the light wind sword glowed silver once more and the amount of sword chi intensified. Just as Jian Chen was about to continue to kill, a voice suddenly called out, "Stay your hand." Upon that, everyone that was charging at Jian Chen suddenly stopped. At the same time, the person who Jian Chen had just stabbed in the throat fell to the floor. What a fast sword! That sword is so fucking fast. Within the group were many astounded men, among them were many saint masters who could see Jian Chen's sword. However, even then, they were astounded by the lightning speed Jian Chen had displayed. They all knew that against this fast of a sword, they would need to be extra prudent, otherwise they risked losing their lives. At this point, the few great saint masters who were looking down on Jian Chen now had a different opinion of him. Now they saw him as an opponent of an equal standing. In this short moment, aside from those saint masters on the floor, every other saint master's face grayed as they grew serious. In that short instant, they could only see the hazy white glow of Jian Chen's sword and not the death of their comrades. Jian Chen's right hand held his sword as he stood over the bodies with blood dripping down the tip. He stared coldly at everyone around him and said, "If you wish to steal from me, you'll find that it won't be easy. At the very least, I will make you all pay a heavy price for it." Jian Chen's words didn't cause any peak saint master to feel frantic at all. Within this 100-man group, there were many great saint master experts, so they did not believe in the delirious statement coming from Jian Chen. Although the words of Jian Chen did seem a little delusional, not a single person had said anything in response. Even the great saint masters had been speechless, for those saint masters lying down at Jian Chen's feet were proof of his strength. Pa pa pa, standing on the rooftop, an elder began to clap with a faint smile on his face. "Sire Wu Yun is indeed skillful. To think I would be able to see such a sight, how admirable. Truly admirable." Jian Chen returned the smile but did not reply to him. "Everyone, do you still wish to rob me of my things?" As Jian Chen finished speaking, a middle-aged man with a dark expression spoke. Don't think that because you have some strength you can put everyone else beneath you. Wu Yun, although you've killed a few of my Yulong clan members, I will show you that without giving those monster cores, you will not leave this area alive. Sire Wu Yun, even though our Mutian clan also had some deaths to you, they were the outstanding members of the clan and were favored by the clan leader. If you do not hand over compensation today, even we will have a hard time quelling this. Our clan leader's wrath is not an easy thing to accept." Hearing these two men talk, everyone else saw it as a stroke of good luck. No one felt the need to retreat despite Jian Chen's strength surprising them. Although they still felt that they needed to keep up a deathly serious vigilance. After all, Class 5 monster cores were too alluring to any person. Right now, the only problem was that there were too many parties involved and there were only 2 Class 5 monster cores, making it impossible to share. Despite everyone being aware of Jian Chen's strength, no one was afraid of the consequences. Jian Chen's glare intensified in danger as he understood that another fight was unavoidable. With a cold laugh, he said, "So it's like this. Then let me give you your compensation." The light wind sword exploded with a silver glow as the sword chi assimilated into the surrounding air of the men 10 meters away. Everyone immediately felt a sharp stinging sensation in their skin, almost as if a multitude of sharp swords were pressing against their skin. Jian Chen's feet stamped across the ground as he glided with the speed of a demon. The 10 meters separating him and the men in front of him were gone in an instant as he arrived right in front of the Yulan clan group. Brandishing his light wind sword, he used his sword chi to enshroud the group within his sword chi. The Yulan clan were already a group of people Jian Chen disliked, so they would be the first people he would eliminate. "Everyone be careful!" The leader of the Yulan clan cried out. In an instant a sword appeared in his hands. Even within the emptiness that was the sword chi, he waved his sword and delivered a downward stroke. Ding! A loud sound filled the air as a slender-looking sword suddenly appeared within the sword chi and clashed against the sword. Immediately an intense shockwave flew from the two saint weapons in a visible arc and smashed violently against the two sides of the street. Suddenly, the walls of stone began to shake before a layer of dust shook and flew into the air. When the two saint weapons collided, Jian Chen immediately recalled his weapon and twirled around on the ground with an extremely fast speed. In a moment, he had dodged the second stroke of the man. The entire Yulan clan had already prepared themselves to face off against the speedy Jian Chen. Standing in front of everyone else were hardened men with saint force emanating from their hands to form their saint weapons before slashing at Jian Chen with it. Just then, a few milliseconds after the saint weapons were swung, a silver ray of light flashed before they could even react and stabbed into their throats. Chapter 183, 1 against 3. The light wind sword was still moving extremely fast. The silver glow had become a streak of light that made it hard to distinguish the blade. Great Saint Masters would have to be careful when dealing with it, while a Saint Master would find this blade fatal. The light wind sword wreaked havoc as each Yulan clansman was completely powerless to do anything before his throat was slashed, cutting the main artery in their neck. Saint Masters only saw a streak of light, before they felt a sharp pain at their throats. Following that, each one of them began to choke and fall to the ground. Jian Chen continued to move in between each Yulan clan member as his light wind sword continued to move around with sword chi enshrouding it. Within the group, each clansman felt a sharp pain at their throats before falling to the ground. Wherever Jian Chen moved, people would fall, and within that group of Saint Masters, very few escaped his wrath. Within the time it took to take 2 deep breaths, Jian Chen had already killed 20 men from the Yulan clan group. Since his sword techniques were very fast and accurate, Jian Chen's killing potential was tremendous. For those who only had the same level of strength as Jian Chen, it was guaranteed that the first strike would be fatal. In the time it took for the Yulan clan's great Saint Masters to reach the front lines, they saw 20 of their men die. They could only glare and gnash their teeth in anger before they reached him. Those Saint Masters who died may have only been the middle-ranking members of the clan, but they had brought a total of 50 people. For almost half of their group to be gone within 2 deep breaths, this was an incomparably cruel event for them. You seek death. Wu Yun, don't think you can escape alive. The elder and middle-aged man leaped down from the rooftop with a snarl, as they charged toward Jian Chen. Their saint weapons pulsed with a strong saint force that vibrated against everyone's ears as they slashed through the air toward Jian Chen. Jian Chen and the middle-aged man crossed swords. The middle-aged man with red eyes snarled and pushed against Jian Chen. 3 great Saint Masters. Feeling the intense energy of 3 saint weapon users, Jian Chen's face revealed a cold smile. If he were still at the primary Saint Master level, then 3 great Saint Masters would have given him a tremendous amount of trouble. It was a shame for them that Jian Chen had reached the peak Saint Master level, which was a world away from the primary level. These 3 great Saint Masters could be fought with his strength as long as they didn't have an attribute or some sort of strong battle skill. The light wind sword, encased in light, stabbed forward with an ear-splitting sound. In an instant, Jian Chen had already stabbed 10 times, intercepting the 3 incoming saint weapons, causing a series of metallic sounds. Those 10 strokes smashed against the 3 saint weapons like a torrent. Although they saw the amount of power put behind each one of the 10 strokes, the owners of each saint weapon weren't worried. A large amount of saint force exploded from their weapons and reinforced their attack's downward momentum, which were focused on Jian Chen. Even though he was up against 3 great saint masters as a saint master, he wasn't afraid at all. Instead, his fighting strength was at an all-time high. The light wind sword disappeared in a blur once more as he clashed against the 3 saint weapons. Although Jian Chen could dodge the blows, he had wanted to verify his own strength against the 3 great saint masters. After all, he had finally reached the peak saint master level, and this was the first battle where he was up against multiple great saint masters. With his own eyes, he wanted to find out his limits. The slim light wind sword clashed once more with the saint weapons, releasing a large amount of saint force that was disproportionate to its size. The clash of saint force rippled throughout the area and crashed against the buildings surrounding them again. Immediately, the stone walls began to grow cracks, like cobwebs, that spread further and further out. Long before they had begun fighting, the civilians within the buildings had already evacuated from them, so they weren't afraid of involving any innocent bystanders. The streets that previously had hundreds of people had all been evacuated, allowing the fighters a wide open space to fight. The people not involved in the fighting were astounded. They saw Jian Chen, a saint master, able to fight on equal grounds with 3 great saint masters. Not a single one of them believed what they saw. This Wu Yun is truly complex. To only be a peak saint master yet have this much fighting strength? He is truly strong, and his sword strokes are incomparably fast yet accurate. His sword has already slashed twice or thrice, but each movement is very smooth, like water. There is not a single wasted movement, and each sword stroke flows into the next seamlessly with absolutely no space in his movement. Just based on fighting experience, he is not lacking in the slightest. An elder spoke with some admiration. It would seem that the Wu Yun's experiences with life or death battles number way more than ours, otherwise, there would be no way for him to have such a refined fighting experience. Fighting experience isn't something that can be taught and learned, but only experienced by walking the line between life and death. This is something that can only be comprehended by the fierce hammer of experience. The most important detail is the speed of his sword. It is far too fast to be created by experience. Could it be a special type of battle skill? Upon hearing those 2 words, everyone's eyes began to shine. Battle skills were very precious on the Tian Yuan continent as well as being very rare. The influential powers gathered here didn't even have a single low-class battle skill. Even if they did, only the core of the clan members would be able to have the chance to learn it. These 2 words had overwhelming temptation, much more than that of a silly class 5 monster core. This sword style that Wu Yun uses must definitely be a profound battle skill, otherwise he would not be able to contend against a great saint master and wouldn't be so fast. In that short moment, everyone in the crowd had approved to this explanation. In their eyes, aside from a battle skill, there was no other explanation for Jian Chen's speed or strength. Just thinking about if Jian Chen had a battle skill caused everyone to have a burning glow within their eyes. Battle skills were a thing that every cultivator drooled over. As long as one was a cultivator, there was no way to resist the allure of having a battle skill. Chapter 184, Battle Skill. At this moment, many great saint masters had become very lively. The blood within their bodies was boiling with excitement at the mere mention of a battle skill. Many of them were anxious to just charge at Jian Chen in order to rob him of this battle skill. Even though every single person had that urging thought, no one had decided to make a move. No one there was an idiot. Seeing Jian Chen fight with 3 great saint masters on even footing, they all knew that Jian Chen's strength was not as easy as they previously thought. Right now, everyone was waiting for the great saint masters from the Yulan clan to use up Jian Chen's saint force. The Saint Force was the energy one needed to have to fight. In the case that the amount of Saint Force consumed was too much, then it would impact one's fighting strength. By that point, everyone could easily rob Jian Chen. Jian Chen and the three great Saint Masters continued to fight for the time it took to boil a cup of tea. With each second, Jian Chen met blow for blow against his opponents without dodging a single attack from them. While on the other side, the three great Saint Masters from the Yulan clan grew more and more fearful. They had already been shocked beyond belief at first, but they hadn't thought that a peak Saint Master would be able to go against three great Saint Masters at the same time with no change in expression. What was most frightening was that this peak Saint Master was able to go blow for blow against them without any drawbacks. As the four continued to fight, Jian Chen had already determined his own strength against the three as they continued to try to coordinate themselves against him. His body would constantly dodge the saint weapons and with a step forward, he would stab his light wind sword which let out an ear-piercing sound as it flew at the great Saint Masters. This sword stroke had caused those great Saint Masters to feel extremely shocked. From the eyes of these three great Saint Masters, this one sword stroke was the fastest one yet. In a flash, the tip of the light wind sword had already approached the throat of one of them. The elder who the light wind sword was about to pierce grew serious. In this short of a distance, the chances of him being able to dodge the attack were very low. In this moment between life and death, the elder wasn't frantic. With an explosive shout, a large amount of Saint Force burst out from his body and wrapped around him. Another wave of Saint Force rippled and obstructed the light wind sword for only the smallest of moments, but it was enough for the elder to give him the chance to twist his upper body to the side. The explosive strength of a great Saint Master could not be belittled at all. The moment the ripple of energy made contact with the light wind sword, the tip of its sword slowly managed to break through it before continuing on toward the elder's throat. However, because of that wave of energy, the speed of the sword was much slower than before. The light wind sword approached the elder's neck once more. Even as the elder turned his body, the incredibly sharp sword chi had left a small line of blood on his neck. Elder Ling, move quickly. At the same time, the two other great Saint Masters by his side cried out angrily as they slashed at Jian Chen with their saint weapons in order to divert Jian Chen's attention away from the other elder. Jian Chen snorted. After confirming his newly refined strength, he was no longer playing around with these elders. Deciding that he needed to resolve this issue quickly, he began to try with all of his efforts to accomplish this. Dodging the two blades coming at him, he stabbed out once more with a speed that wasn't inferior at all to the previous strike. The next elder from the Yulan clan dodged Jian Chen's strike with a desperate maneuver, but before he could regain his footing, Jian Chen struck out like a python once more. PCH. The light wind sword flashed with a silver glow as the tip of the sword had easily pierced into the elder's throat. With his throat pierced straight through, the light wind sword was stained with the elder's dark red blood that slowly dripped down to the handle of the sword. The second strike wasn't anticipated at all, so before the elder could react, he had his throat stabbed. The sword was moving far too fast and the distance between the two was tiny, so after dodging the first strike, the second strike had warmly greeted him in the throat. Elder Ling. Ling Badong. Seeing the sword pierce into the elder's throat, the other two great Saint Masters from the Yulan clan cried out in horror and disbelief. Neither of the two had thought that a peak Saint Master would be able to handle three great Saint Masters with ease and then kill one of them. Wu Yun, I'll kill you. Don't think about leaving this place alive, Wu Yun. The two people gnashed their teeth with fury as they glared at Jian Chen. Almost as if they were dripping blood from their eyes, they wished that their gazes would be enough to chop Jian Chen up into 1,000 pieces. Clenching their saint weapons, they charged at Jian Chen. The surrounding people looked on with shock etched into their faces. Not only was Jian Chen facing against three great Saint Masters with no disadvantage, Jian Chen had even killed one of them. This show of strength was absolutely unbelievable, causing many people to think that they had somehow entered some sort of dream and not the real world. Battle skill, this is definitely a battle skill. A battle skill like this was somehow able to let a peak Saint Master to kill a great Saint Master. There is absolutely no way for this to not be a strong battle skill. No matter what price we have to pay, we must obtain this battle skill. Within the crowd, a loud shout came calling out. Everyone began to attribute Jian Chen's kill to the use of a battle skill. By now, the emotions of each person's eye couldn't be concealed as even their bodies began to shake in excitement. In the case that the battle skill became theirs, then if they were to perfect it, how strong would they become? Een. A metallic sound broke through the air as the light wind sword transformed into another ray of light that enshrouded the remaining Yulan clan members with its sword chi. Ding 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 ding, a symphony of sounds could be heard as the light wind sword and the two other saint weapons clashed against each other at rapid speeds. Unlike the previous exchanges, Jian Chen's sword was much faster than before and was filled with a killing intent. So after 5 or 6 successful blocks, both great saint masters were utterly flustered. The sword coming at them was far too fast, and the frequency too much to handle. One strike came after another in an endless torrent that linked into one another seamlessly as if the heavens had decreed it so. Chapter 185. Escape. Jian Chen's sword was getting faster and faster, increasing the amount of pressure both Yulan clan members felt. For two great saint masters to be pushed into such a situation like this, it was truly miserable. So, the light wind sword became a silver light that flew at a terrifying speed towards the middle-aged man's neck. It instantly pierced straight through. In just a small moment, another great saint master had died by Jian Chen's sword. The remaining great saint master was left with a shocked face. With two people, they had just barely managed to fight Jian Chen on even ground, and had even fallen to being at a disadvantage. Now that his companion had died, based on the strength that Jian Chen had displayed, he alone was definitely not an opponent for Jian Chen. If he really did try to go against Jian Chen by himself, he'd probably just die even faster. With that thought, the remaining great saint master elder suddenly grew incomparably pale. But he wasn't stupid, and before Jian Chen could attack him, he cried out, "Everyone, not only does Wu Yun have a Class 5 monster core, but he also has a high-level battle skill. Any one of us alone won't be able to kill him, rather, we'll be killed by him. If we want to obtain the Class 5 monster core and the battle skill, we should quickly join hands and bring him down together." The words the elders said were solely to save his own life, but they weren't without reason either. After all, Jian Chen had already fought against 3 great saint masters by himself before quickly killing 2 of them. Everyone had witnessed this with their own eyes. Charge! Together, we will take that battle skill. Wu Yun's strength is too strong, even 2 to 3 great saint masters didn't have much chance of winning. We should take advantage of the fact that we currently have many people, and kill him first, since his power is much more powerful than any are ours. The elders' words had quickly gained approval from everyone there. Soon, 7 to 8 great saint masters pulled out their saint weapons and charged at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's expression changed. Although he didn't feel that going against 3 great saint masters was strenuous, there were currently a dozen clans with 2 or 3 great saint masters. If they fought together, even he wouldn't be able to handle that. Jian Chen didn't have much time to think about it, since 7 to 8 great saint masters had already reached him. With a roar, their saint force enforced saint weapons simultaneously slashed at him. Although these men hadn't coordinated together much before, it was clear that these men had a strong amount of fighting experience. With each of their saint weapons, they easily blocked off Jian Chen's escape routes. Jian Chen's face hardened further. As he looked at the 8 great saint masters, he could feel a great amount of pressure on him. With a quick wave of his right arm, the after images of his light wind sword instantly filled the air. Ding 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 ding, the sounds of metal hitting metal could be heard once more as in that small moment, the light wind sword collided with the opposing saint weapons more than 10 times. It looked like the light wind sword had blocked all the weapons, offsetting them from their original positions. Jian Chen's body swayed, and he flew at another person with his light wind sword, aiming straight at the man's throat. The man had just swung down his sword and hadn't gotten a chance to retract it. Since he had just expended energy and had yet to recover it, he wasn't able to evade the lightning-fast sword. PCH. The light wind sword immediately bore straight through his throat. Feeling the sharp sting of pain in his throat, the middle-aged man went into shock, and he couldn't breathe. A feeling of disbelief, as well as a powerful dizziness, began to spread through his head. Death? Have I died? Has my life really ended in such a way like this? To think that I would die by the hands of a Saint Master, in his final moments of life, the middle-aged man was still unable to believe it. He was a majestic great Saint Master, but in the end, he had fallen to a mere Saint Master. As the light wind sword was pulled out from his neck, the man slowly fell to the ground. As his life gradually reached an end, his eyes remained wide open as he died with remaining grievance. Lord. A green-robed, skinny, middle-aged man standing on the top of the roof stared down at the skinny man on the ground. His expression changed as he cried out with shock, and he leaped down from the roof. In a flash, he arrived at the man's side. Lord, Lord, the green-robed man crouched down and cried out the dead man's name anxiously. But the man was already completely dead, so no matter how much the green-robed man cried, he wouldn't get a reply. Not too far away, another middle-aged man and 6 other black-robed elders stood on top of a building and watched the distant battle. City Lord, are we not going to go down to prevent this situation? After all, Phoenix City belongs to us. An elder said calmly. A white-robed, middle-aged man shook his head as he spoke in a somewhat helpless tone. It won't do us any good to obstruct this. Although this is Phoenix City, our territory, there are not only many clans from other cities with peak strength gathered over there, but also 3 of our own Phoenix City clans. If we were to rashly do something, we might offend many people. But this man named Wu Yun, his strength is fairly strong. At the peak Saint Master level, he has already killed a few great Saint Masters. This is a very rare sight on the Tian Yuan continent. Another middle-aged man next to the city lord's side. The city lord nodded and said, correct. I don't know where this Wu Yun came from, but his strength is very strong, especially his sword. It is so fast that even great Saint Masters need to be careful. But there are still a good amount of great Saint Masters and over 100 Saint Masters there. Even though this Wu Yun is not weak at all, even he will have trouble escaping from this. If he were to have the strength of a great Saint Master as well, then I would wager he would be able to escape from here. An elder said in a low voice. Nearby, 2 gray-robed men stood upright on top of another building as they observed the battle. The 2-man group was comprised of a middle-aged man and an elderly man. This elder was the one who had spent 100,000 purple coins to purchase the body of the quick cloud beast at the auction. Young lord, it is up to you if we should help him or not. After all, this quick cloud beast was provided by him, so it could be said that he helped us. The gray-robed elder spoke to the other man. The middle-aged man shook his head. I don't see the need for it. This Wu Yun is very complex. Although he is young, he has the strength of a peak Saint Master with a great amount of fighting strength. Even those great Saint Masters were powerless against this man. This kind of potential is rarely seen on the Tian Yuan continent. Besides, his movements aren't bad. If he wanted to run away, then he has a good chance of succeeding. To him, this might just be a test. After all, if he only cultivated quickly, it would only bring him so far. One must undergo a trial of blood and fire in order to truly be tested. Only when one walks the line in between life or death can one truly be called a genius. Otherwise, it would disgrace the very word of a genius. The elder nodded his head in approval. The young lord is truly vicious, this elder cannot compare. The middle-aged man let out a small smile as he spoke gently. Elder Yun, it would be best to go now. We've found the quick cloud beast, so our mission is over. We should go back. With that, the 2 leaped off the roof and with a few flashes, disappeared from sight. On the other side, Jian Chen and a few great Saint Masters were engaged in an intense battle. 7 to 8 great Saint Masters were surrounding him, making it impossible for Jian Chen be as relaxed as he had been during his fight against the first 3 great Saint Masters. With each passing moment, Jian Chen was earning a new wound on his body. A few of the opposing great Saint Masters had small traces of blood on their throats. If they hadn't dodged the light wind sword at the most crucial moment and had comrades supporting them, they would have long since turned into corpses. Jian Chen's eyes flashed as he quickly looked around him. He knew that his utilization of his sword had made everyone think that he was in possession of a battle skill. Because of the preciousness of battle skills on the Tian Yuan continent, the enemies definitely would not relinquish their hold on him easily. Although he had already killed a few great Saint Masters, there were still a dozen more strong clans with their own great Saint Masters. If these great Saint Masters were to truly cooperate with each other, then there would be no way at all for Jian Chen to deal with them with his current level of strength. With that thought, Jian Chen didn't hesitate anymore. After defending a few more attacks aimed at him, his entire body soared into the sky as he quickly made his escape. Chapter 186, Yet another escape. He wants to escape, chase him. Don't let him get away. The battle skill is on him, there's no way he can get away from us. Hurry up and chase him. Just as Jian Chen leaped up, everyone began to shout. A high-class battle skill was something even Earth Saint Masters would drool over. Even many Earth Saint Masters didn't have a single battle skill, let alone a great Saint Master. Wu Yun, stay still. Where do you plan to run off to? Hand over the battle skill or die. Following a mix of passionate and furious roars, the great Saint Masters on the roofs and the ground all attacked Jian Chen. If Jian Chen were to continue to stay here and battle, then perhaps he wouldn't attract the attacks of everyone at once. However, now that he had started to run, no one would allow him to do so with ease. There were at least 30 Saint Masters attacking Jian Chen. Their saint weapons surged with saint force as they filled the narrow space with incomparable power that would shock anyone. Right above Jian Chen's head were a single axe, 2 swords, a cleaver, and even a machete that came crashing down with a terrifying amount of pressure. With Jian Chen in midair, there was nowhere he could go to escape from this assault. He couldn't change his direction. Helplessly, he clenched the light wind sword and began to swing quickly to form a web of sword strokes in front of him. Ding 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 ding, the sounds of an amalgamate of saint weapons colliding together could be heard as the light wind sword clashed fiercely with all of them. Although it had blocked the offensive weapons, the opposing saint weapons had an unbelievably strong amount of force that had placed such a large amount of a pressure on Jian Chen, and he was forced to fall back down to the ground. Jian Chen's legs tapped onto the ground gently before he continued to run like a bullet with no hesitation, far away from the enemies. Just as Jian Chen began to run, 2 more great Saint Masters lashed out with their saint weapons. Charging toward Jian Chen, their eyes flashed fiercely as the saint force flowed into their saint weapons and prepared to make contact with Jian Chen with an ear-splitting sound. A battle skill was just far too alluring. Jian Chen's strength was far beyond what anyone had expected. He had killed 2 great Saint Masters without even giving them a chance to defend. Thus, every single person from the powerful clans had mutually agreed without communicating that they would join hands to deal with Jian Chen together. Jian Chen's figure continued to run forward as the 2 saint weapons flew down on him. His feet became a blur as he instantly sped up and unfathomably crossed 2/3 meter in that moment, perfectly evading the incoming attacks. Een! The light wind sword stabbed forward with lightning-fast speed once more as it emitted an ear-splitting sound while it cut through the air. At the same time, it carried a strong amount of power that would break through any defense as it headed toward one of the great Saint Master's throat. PCH. Jian Chen's eyes frosted over with an intense killing intent that seemed as if it was almost capable of destroying souls. This made anyone with a weaker amount of strength afraid to make eye contact with him. Just as the light wind sword immediately stabbed through the great Saint Master, it was pulled out just as fast as it came. It then immediately stabbed towards the other great Saint Master by his side. Seeing how his companion had been killed, the remaining great Saint Master couldn't help but grow pale with shock. Although he knew Jian Chen was superbly strong, he didn't think that it would be to such an extent. Even a great Saint Master like his friend was killed by a mere Saint Master. Seeing Jian Chen's sword that resembled the scythe of the god of death come at him, the great Saint Master's expression suddenly changed. Recalling his saint weapon to himself, he tried to block the sword coming at his throat. Ding! Even though the great Saint Master was able to block the fatal blow, the light wind sword still carried enough force to push the man back involuntarily. Before the man could regain his footing, another ear-splitting sound could be heard as a silver glow of light stabbed through his throat. By the time the glow had dissipated, the only thing to be seen was a thin and slender, silver sword already dyed with a red tint. The impaled great Saint Master's eyes widened. In his final moments of being alive, a single thought spiraled through his head: what a fast sword! At that moment, another 30 great Saint Masters quickly began to charge at Jian Chen from all directions. The few already close to Jian Chen had already started to slash their saint weapons at him. Jian Chen's eyes quickly swept around him as he quickly blocked a few saint weapons that were impossible to evade with his sword. In another instant, he quickly charged into a group of Saint Masters. If he wanted to charge out of the encirclement formed by the 30 great Saint Masters, he'd have to break through by ground, because there were hundreds of people protecting the ground. If he managed to mingle with the crowd, even those great Saint Masters would have difficulty trying to obstruct him. If he escaped by air, he'd probably be surrounded by great Saint Masters again as soon as he flew upwards. With a flash, Jian Chen slipped into the ground. The light wind sword turned into a silver light that flashed through the air as it pierced through the throats of the enemies. Against these Saint Master experts, Jian Chen's absolute strength would spare no one. Quickly, Jian Chen charged forwards with the crowd of people. Any place he passed through, members of major clans on both sides of him would fall to the ground. Quick, run! The group of people grew frightened, and scattered in all directions like cats on a hot tin roof. Bastard! Wu Yun, I won't forgive you. I'll smash you into 1,000 pieces. Seeing the people that had died from Jian Chen's hands, a few great Saint Masters flew into rages from frustration. They then began to charge into the crowd to chase after Jian Chen. However, since there were people on their own sides within this dense crowd, the great Saint Masters felt like they had an arm and leg tied behind their backs since they couldn't kill indiscriminately like Jian Chen was doing. Everyone, disperse! A person immediately cried out, but it was unnecessary. Just as Jian Chen had rushed into a group of Saint Masters, they all ran for their lives in all directions. But because there was 100 people crowded within a narrow street, it was impossible for all of them to escape from him within a short period of time. With Jian Chen's incomparably fast sword, only a few of the further people could narrowly escape from his path as the unlucky ones were all slain. Within a few breaths' time, Jian Chen had dyed the streets red with blood. He rushed out of the crowd of hundreds of people, and without showing any signs of stopping, immediately began to run off into the distance. Behind him, the 30 remaining great Saint Masters pursued him relentlessly, unwilling to let him go. Chapter 187, Wind Attribute Great Saint Master. Seeing Jian Chen get further and further away, the city lord of Phoenix City let out a breath of air. He's as good as gone. If he were to stay around and toss these people about, I don't know what our Phoenix City would end up looking like. The other men by the Lord's side silently nodded their heads. Although Phoenix City was a Class 2 city under their control, they could only control a few 100,000 soldiers. This group here wasn't just a single clan, it was a temporary alliance of a few dozen powerful clans that could easily be provoked. If they were to band together, then even an army of 100,000 would feel a headache when dealing with them. I didn't think this Wu Yun would have a battle skill. What a shock this is. Even the various Earth Saint Masters on the Tian Yuan continent don't have such a battle skill. An elder spoke with an envious admiration. This Wu Yun has a great amount of luck. Not only did he have 2 Class 5 magical beast bodies, but he also had a battle skill. Who knows what else he may have. This Wu Yun is also very complicated. I hope that he has no major power backing him, otherwise the clans chasing him will suffer miserably. AI, every man is innocent, but envying another's treasure is a crime. The city lord let out another breath as he spoke out another command, let every guardsman know, this group is not to be obstructed, yes. Jian Chen quickly ran through the streets toward the city gates. Phoenix City occupied a large area with many hidden places, even the number of spies was great. To stay behind in Phoenix City would not be a wise decision, and so the only remaining solution was to escape from the city and run into the countryside. Therefore Jian Chen would need to continue to run for a little longer. The various wounds on Jian Chen's body continued to bleed and stained his clothes red. At that moment he didn't have time to deal with his injuries, he just needed to hurry up and escape from the city. Jian Chen dashed through the streets violently without stopping for a single moment. With each leap he flew from the ground to the buildings in rapid succession. Already his speed had far surpassed that of a low-leveled magical beast and the other low-leveled magical beasts meant for transporting people on the streets. Although he was already traveling at a fast pace, the group of great Saint Masters weren't any slower than Jian Chen. They weren't fully aware of how Jian Chen could move so fast, but they could make up for it with their superior saint force. Wu Yun, you cannot escape. If you don't wish to die, then stop and wait for us obediently. A great Saint Master called out from behind with a loud shout. Although there were a few others shouting, this one man had been even louder. His voice could easily shatter the eardrums of anyone with sensitive hearing that was in close proximity to him. The 30 great Saint Masters relentlessly chased Jian Chen through various streets, their shouts attracting the curiosity of many people. Each person began to reach a grinding halt as they turned to look in the direction of the commotion. That would be the group of 30 great Saint Masters. A single middle-aged man stared at the fleeing figure of Jian Chen before muttering, this Wu Yun is incredibly fast. If the situation continues on like this, then our chances of catching up to him in a short moment will be nearly impossible. After that, he turned his head to look at the man next to him, third eldest, among our group, I'm afraid only you are able to catch up to Wu Yun. We can't allow him to run away, so it would be best if you went to obstruct him. The one called third eldest was wearing a red-colored robe and looked neither fat or skinny. Although he was in his middle ages, his outward appearance made him look rather young. In fact, the one called third eldest was rather handsome and very confident. Hearing that, third eldest concentrated on the retreating figure ahead of them before recalling the memories of when Jian Chen had killed a few great Saint Masters with a small amount of hesitation in his eyes. Second brother, while this Wu Yun has the strength of a peak Saint Master, he has a battle skill. Did you not see how he had just killed a few great Saint Masters? I am but one person, and that will not be enough to fight him. Just thinking about how Jian Chen had slaughtered those great Saint Masters made the third eldest's heart beat wildly. Third eldest, although you only have the strength of a primary great Saint Master, don't forget that you have the Wind Saint force. You have the superiority in speed. Even though Wu Yun outranks the rest of us with speed so that we have to proceed with caution, you are the antithesis to him. The middle-aged man said. Second brother, although I have the Wind Saint force, my familiarity with the winds is rather low. If Jian Chen's speed were to be compared to mine, then he would undoubtedly be faster than me. The third eldest said unconfidently. The middle-aged man let out a sigh. His third eldest was extremely afraid of dying, so he spoke unhappily, third eldest, can you not see how so many of us are chasing this Wu Yun? All you need to do is to distract him for some time. If Wu Yun gets trapped by us once more, then he will find it difficult to escape. Then, after we finish, you will be the first one to take Wu Yun's space belt and then you will make your escape. With your speed combined with your total strength, no one here will be able to catch up to you. Even with those words, the third eldest still hesitated for some time before replying, fine then. Second brother, I will go block Wu Yun, but you all must immediately come to help me. Don't worry, third eldest. With this many people, we'll be able to take that battle skill, so we will have to rely on you for everything else. The middle-aged man slapped the third eldest on the shoulder with some excitement. In his mind, if this plan were to succeed, then the battle skill and the 2 Class 5 monster cores would end up in his hands. Jian Chen had already been running through the streets using all his strength, making his speed comparable to a horse beast. In a short moment, he had already traveled 40 kilometers of road, making the gates to the city loom ever so closely. At that moment, from the front of the group of great Saint Masters, a cyan-colored light suddenly shone everywhere as the figure of a man was suddenly enveloped by it. His speed abruptly intensified as he instantly flew far beyond the group toward Jian Chen. The strange event that had happened behind him was not lost on Jian Chen. Turning his head back to look, his face suddenly changed. How unfortunate, there was a man with wind-attributed saint force within their group. How troublesome this will be. Chapter 188. To fight and escape, a person with wind saint force would hold the superiority in speed. If one were a wind-attributed great saint master, even an earth saint master wouldn't be able to compare with their speed. While Jian Chen himself wasn't an ordinary person, he was only a peak saint master, which was already lower than a peak great saint master by a large gap. If he were to compare speed against a wind-attributed person, then there would be no way to escape. In less than a second, the wind-attributed great saint master flew toward Jian Chen with a large gust of wind covering and forming into the shape of a large sword. Instantly, that cyan-colored sword had reached the back of Jian Chen. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. There was 500 meters separating him and the group behind him until this man came forward. Before the rest of the great saint masters could reach him, he would need to quickly take care of this wind-attributed person. If he didn't, then there would be no doubt that he would be stuck in between them all once more, making another escape unlikely. The light wind sword instantaneously appeared in his right hand as he instantly shot a sharp amount of sword chi toward that man. Ding! When the layer of wind-attributed saint force made contact with the sharp amount of sword chi, the amount of saint force coming from both sides instantly repelled each other in such a way that was visible to everyone. The shockwave rippled through to the buildings and caused spiderwebs of cracks to appear. Even the stalls selling monster cores suffered from the wave of energy that had been created. Oh my, there's a fight happening, a cyan-colored light, that's the sign of a wind-attributed person, hurry up and hide, these two are experts. In the case someone gets injured, it'll be one of us. The guardsmen will be here quickly. The 2 men battled and quickly caused the street they were on to become disarrayed. A few of the weaker men instantly tried to move further away to avoid getting hurt. Jian Chen's light wind sword stabbed forward quickly with a hazy glow to distort the path of the weapon. In this small moment, it was imperative that he killed this wind-attributed man quickly. Unfortunately, this wind-attributed great saint master wasn't as easy to kill as the other great saint masters. Even under the flurry of stabs, this great saint master was exceptionally difficult to fight against. Although he wasn't fighting as flustered as the rest, Jian Chen was still fighting at an extremely fast speed either way. Even more so, this wind-attributed great saint master was only trying to stall Jian Chen, and so with the man trying to defend himself so adamantly, Jian Chen found it difficult to kill him. With this delay, the large group of great saint masters had almost caught up to him. Seeing how rapidly the group was coming toward him, Jian Chen bit his lips and gave up trying to fight. His legs turned around and dashed toward the city gates once more. Once Jian Chen began to run, the wind-attributed man immediately began to chase after him so that Jian Chen wouldn't have a good chance to escape. With this, it was easy for Jian Chen to get encircled once more. Wu Yun, let's see you try and escape from us this time. The group of great saint masters weren't from the same side, but for the sake of capturing Jian Chen, they had all joined forces. Not only were there some men on the ground, but some were standing on top of the roofs in case Jian Chen tried to run through the sky again. Seeing the amount of great saint masters circling him, Jian Chen's face took on a serious expression as he prepared to defend himself against the multitudes of men by each sides of the streets before charging into a restaurant. Shwa shwa shwa. The figures of a few men began to flicker as a few more great saint masters followed him into the restaurant while the rest of the men stayed outside. Within the restaurant, a slender blade suddenly flew toward those that entered the moment they crossed into the building. Careful! Although someone had realized the incoming attack, the sword was coming at an extremely fast speed. Adding on to the fact that everyone had expected Jian Chen to try and continue to escape instead of ambushing them inside the restaurant, not a single one of them was able to react or dodge. PCH. The light wind sword stabbed into the throat of another great Saint Master, killing him. Then, Jian Chen pulled out the sword and immediately began to battle with the others once more. Bang! 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 The tables within the restaurant were knocked around and became extremely damaged. Since right now wasn't a time for patrons to eat, the restaurant was almost absolutely empty. Aside from a few waitresses, the rest of the patrons were scattered about randomly. When they saw the restaurant get invaded and Jian Chen ambush the great Saint Masters, each of them instantly stood up to get far away. Jian Chen started to fight with another great Saint Master by the narrow doorway. Since it wasn't as hectic as when a group of men were all fighting him at the same time, Jian Chen found this to be much easier. Honored uncles, please take your fight outside. This restaurant can't handle a fight like this. A flowery uniformed person wailed with a face full of shock. It was a waitress who had ran and hid under a nearby table. Boom bang. Just then, another 2 explosions could be heard as the wall to the restaurant suddenly collapsed and a group of great Saint Masters began to flow into the building with the intent to kill. Jian Chen became startled at this as the restaurant suddenly gained another few great Saint Masters, making the numbers equate to 10 men that entered with him. If he were to continue fighting he would be straining himself. Ceasing his fighting, his feet stomped on the ground before propelling himself through to the wooden floor of the second story. Chase him! The 10 great Saint Masters immediately followed Jian Chen through the hole he made to the second story. As they arrived on the second story, before they could even take in the scenery around them, a minute sword suddenly stabbed through their necks from behind. Then with another flash of silver, the sword stabbed through the front of another man's throat. In an instant, Jian Chen had capitalized on the opportunity to kill 2 people. In the following moment, the others finally realized what was happening as they saw the 2 men fall to the ground with cold sweat. Their hearts began to feel a secret amount of joy as they thought themselves lucky that Jian Chen hadn't chosen them as his initial targets. Otherwise, it could have been them lying on the floor instead of those 2. Right now I've only about half of my Saint Force left. If I were to go all out right now, it won't take too long for me to run out. I need to hold on until I can escape, but I have to avoid fighting with them as well. If I run out of energy while trying to escape, then today will be the day I die. Jian Chen planned to himself mentally. Now that everyone was prepared for an attack, he had lost the element of surprise. So if he were to try a sneak attack again, it wouldn't work as well as the first time. They would only fall for it once, not twice. With that, Jian Chen immediately broke out of the restaurant into the courtyard before dashing toward a nearby well. Chapter 189, Escaping from a Critical Situation. Just as Jian Chen reached the entrance, a white-colored glow of light suddenly burst from the second story towards Jian Chen. Jian Chen's sword arm stabbed into the white object. The item suddenly exploded upon contact and captured Jian Chen within its shroud. Jian Chen wasn't worried at all and allowed the white powder to fall upon him. With his 1000 immunity despite its incomplete state, he wasn't afraid of any toxin or poison. Jian Chen raised an arm above the stone slab before slamming down onto it with a bang. The slab broke into multiple pieces, revealing the entrance beneath it. With no hesitation, Jian Chen immediately jumped into it. Within the courtyard of the restaurant, more men began to arrive from every direction as they gathered at one spot, totaling 27 men. From the 30 great Saint Masters, only 27 of them were left. What a cunning person, now that he has jumped in there, we've no way to reach him. Staring at the opening, an elder spoke out with an ugly expression. All of the wells within Phoenix City are interconnected. Every single one of these wells all lead to an underground cavern which stores water where he could escape into any direction he wanted to. Spoke a dark-skinned man. He was a part of the Haiming clan, which was one of the Phoenix City clans, so this was a topic that he was rather familiar with. Then what do we do now? Should we follow him down the well? An elder spoke with a hesitant voice. I would think not. Wu Yun is a peak saint master with a strength that you've personally witnessed. We've had 3 great saint masters fight together and that still wasn't enough to defeat him. If we were to go down this well, then our ability to fight as a group would be greatly hindered as well as our line of sight being deeply affected. So entering this well would not only make it impossible for us to grab him, but we would lose many men that way. A middle-aged man said. He wore expensive-looking clothes with a golden outline, signifying him as a noble. A sharp-nosed man let out a long sigh as he spoke out reluctantly, then are we just going to let him go? He has a battle skill, a high-leveled one at that. That battle skill was enough to let a single peak saint master fight the entirety of our group without us being able to capture him. Right, to meet a weak person with a strong battle skill, this is a rare 1 in 1,000 event. We will never come across such an easy target again. In any case, we would be able to understand the secrets behind this battle skill for our clan's benefits after we take it along with his 2 Class 5 monster cores. Although a monster core is precious, compared to a battle skill, the difference between the two is too high. Such a profound battle skill is something even the wealthy cannot buy. A white-robed middle-aged man said, it was the representative from the Mutian clan. That's correct, this battle skill is something we shouldn't let go so easily, but Wu Yun has already escaped from us and could be anywhere within Phoenix City. With how large this city is, we're searching within an endless ocean of people, making this matter extremely complicated. In my eyes, we should take advantage of the fact that he hasn't gone far yet and chase after him. The terrain below the well isn't clear, and the visibility is near non-existent. We won't even know where Wu Yun might be waiting to ambush us, so if we take the bait, it'll be us taking the danger. The group quickly descended into a storm of chattering. This battle skill was something everyone coveted and desperately wanted. Although everyone knew that while they were greedy for it, they were also afraid of dying. They were afraid of what they might encounter down in the well. After all, none of them were idiots. Despite the rarity, if they threw away their lives to attain it, then they wouldn't be able to use this profound skill in death. Seeing everyone talk among each other, a plain-robed elder let out a faint smile as he raised his left hand to reveal a finger-wide serpent coiled around the arms within his robe. The elder caressed the snake gently on the head and said confidently, no need to worry, Wu Yun will not escape from us. The reservoir underneath Phoenix City was a natural one that supplied water for each and every well within the city. At this moment within this very reservoir, a man was swimming through the water streams with the grace of a fish in water. This man was the Jian Chen who was relieved to have escaped from the restaurant. Now that he was underground, the entire area was pitch black, adding onto the water that blocked his line of sight. Jian Chen was nearly blind. According to the mental map in his head, Jian Chen was quickly moving in a certain direction in the pitch dark which he estimated to be around a few meters away. During the days he was in Phoenix City, Jian Chen had studied the environment of the city. His plan to escape had long since been thought out in case he needed to escape from a situation like the one he was just in. Taking use of this plan, he was able to escape into any direction by using the connected paths from the well so that he could reappear within different parts of the city. With the fact that Jian Chen was a peak saint master now, the duration in which he could hold his breath was now longer and even more simple than eating dinner. Therefore, holding his breath within the water was not a problem for him. Jian Chen remained within the reservoir for nearly 6 hours before reaching an area 20 kilometers away from where he had started. Facing another direction, he began to swim toward a broad passageway and continued up toward the surface. With his hair still wet with water, Jian Chen took in another breath of air. After spending 6 hours of constant swimming, he was a bit tired. After catching his breath, Jian Chen slapped both palms onto the surface of the water and shot out of the pool like a bullet. Flying in midair, Jian Chen landed down onto the side of the stream as he tried to shake himself loose of any remaining water droplets. Immediately he began to look around himself carefully. The area he had surfaced in looked to be a small courtyard with clothes scattered about on poles everywhere. No matter where he looked, not a single person could be found. No one's here. Seems like this is the home of a small family. Jian Chen shook his hair dry. After cutting his hair with his sword, only a few inches remained. I've no idea what the situation is like now, but I'm afraid that the native powers here have already hired a few groups to search for me. The distance between here and the restaurant isn't that far, so I should leave immediately. Jian Chen's previous appearance had already been completely washed away in the reservoir below, returning his appearances to his original one. His wet hair had emphasized his already handsome face, adding on to his charm. Without hesitating, Jian Chen began to use his saint force to heat up his body and evaporate the water on it before changing clothes into a new set in his space belt. There was no time to clean his wounds other than to wrap them in some bandages. This was the home of someone else after all, there was no telling when the lord of the house would come back. If that lord were to discover a stranger in the back of his home, it would certainly bring a lot of trouble to him. To avoid such a situation, it would be best to leave immediately. After all the preparations were made and making sure no one was around, Jian Chen left the area and entered a small alleyway. From there, he entered a crowded street and figured out where he was geographically before heading toward the city gates. His current appearance wasn't that of Wu Yun, so Jian Chen wasn't worried at all that he would be caught. Chapter 190, 100-Mile Tracing Powder. I've heard there was a fight right outside the Heavenly Phoenix auction house. Who would ever be so outrageous to do this, I do not know, but they must be impatient to die. If they were to be caught by the guardsmen, then the penalty would be severe. That's right, I've heard that as well. It seems like there was a group of people attacking a single person. What do you guys know? I was actually there when it happened, let me tell you. Each one of those fighters were all experts with backgrounds so strong that even the city guards didn't dare obstruct them. While fighting, not a single guard came to stop the fight. Yes, I've heard that all of them were great saint masters against a single person. That man must be amazing to go against an entire group of great saint masters while killing a few and ultimately running away. For a man so amazing as him to escape an encirclement of great saint masters, could he be an earth saint master? Perhaps it was because the fight between Jian Chen and the great saint masters had been so spectacular that the news had traveled so fast. Jian Chen heard multiple people chatting about it. Jian Chen continued to walk toward the city gates while listening to the people talk, but not too long afterward, a large amount of energy suddenly flew out from behind. Feeling this strong wave of energy, Jian Chen stopped momentarily before turning his head to look back only to see a large group of people standing on the rooftops of the buildings next to him. Leaping down onto the ground in his direction, Jian Chen saw the familiar faces of some of the great saint masters who had tried to capture him earlier. Jian Chen's face shook slightly as he suddenly felt a chill go up his spine. What's going on? Could they have found me? Are they just passing through? Judging from their pace, they're not hurrying anywhere. Could they have really found me? No, that's not possible. My appearance isn't similar at all to Wu Yun. There's no way for them to find out it's me. There was a suspicious feeling within Jian Chen's heart. Right now, he and Wu Yun were two separate people with different faces. His body didn't have any visible wounds and he didn't look like Wu Yun at all. Even the more visible wounds were hidden by his new clothes on which no tears or holes could be seen. Perhaps they're not coming in my direction and have a different matter to take care of. Despite this situation, as long as I don't look frantic or suddenly start to run, I won't be found out. Jian Chen thought to himself. Trying to force himself into a calm state, he slowly began to walk toward the city gates once more, but his pace was just marginally faster than when he was originally walking. It was with great difficulty that he had escaped from the great saint masters, so he didn't wish to be caught again. In this brief moment, Jian Chen didn't waver for a single step and continued forward with a confident face. He wasn't Wu Yun anymore, he was Jian Chen. Quickly, the great Saint Masters vaulted over the buildings in the direction of Jian Chen without slowing down in the slightest. At this, Jian Chen's heart leapt to his throat, but these men fortunately didn't see his visible reaction. Suddenly, the moment an elder passed by Jian Chen, his face changed expressions abruptly as he turned his head to look at Jian Chen from within the crowd. "I've found him, he's over here, surround him quickly." Before he could even finish talking, another group of men suddenly fell down around Jian Chen within 5 meters in tight vigilance. Even though their opponent was merely a peak Saint Master, this great Saint Master elder didn't dare to belittle him after personally witnessing how Jian Chen had killed many great Saint Masters. The other great Saint Masters ahead of the elder immediately turned around and ran toward him to get into position, quickly surrounding Jian Chen. This sudden development stunned Jian Chen. His face darkened as he slowly cupped together his hands with a faint smile. "Fellow brothers, this one asks what meaning this is." Jian Chen's heart didn't think that his identity would have been found out so quickly, as he was extremely confident in his ability to disguise himself. His new appearance was no longer the 40-year-old man and was completely different from the one he had used for Wu Yun. Even his hair had been meticulously trimmed so that it wasn't similar at all to Wu Yun. The 20 great Saint Masters looked at the clearly 20-year-old Jian Chen's appearance with some doubt. "Elder Himu, isn't this the wrong person?" A white-robed middle-aged man said. "That's right, Elder Himu, you must have found the wrong person. How is this Wu Yun?" Another white-robed man spoke. His voice was muffled as he was filled with doubt. The one called Elder Himu stared at Jian Chen firmly with some doubt in his own eye. Secretly, he thought to himself, could I have found the wrong person? As this thought flashed through his head, a small slender-looking snake suddenly came out from the elder's robes. With its head held high, it began to spit out venom toward Jian Chen. At this, Elder Himu looked surprised as he cried out at disbelief from seeing the reaction of his snake to a 20-year-old youth. "You are Wu Yun." Upon this shout, the other great Saint Masters each had a look of shock and disbelief as they tried to make the connection between Jian Chen and Wu Yun. "Elder Himu, are you sure you didn't find the wrong person?" A red-robed elder tried to confirm. Elder Himu didn't bother to answer the other elder and instead looked at Jian Chen with a sneer. "Wu Yun, this change in your appearance is truly massive. To a point that not a single one of us could recognize you, but no matter how much you change your appearance, you cannot escape my spirit snake's sense of smell." Jian Chen's face grew serious as he listened to the elder. The opposing side clearly had some secret method to identify him, so he wasn't able to avoid suspicion now. Hearing the confident Elder Himu, the 20 great Saint Masters all felt extremely astonished, but they didn't delay any longer and took out their saint weapons while waiting for Jian Chen to make a move. Jian Chen looked around himself before asking Elder Himu, "What did you use to find me?" Elder Himu looked proud as he spoke. "There's no harm in telling you. When you first fought with us at the restaurant, I sprayed you with a special type of medicinal powder. With this spirit snake, it can easily detect that smell within 1,000 meters, so tracking you was easy." Jian Chen then realized his mistake. "Even after dropping into the water, I was unable to wash off this powder." "Humph, you belittle my special 100-mile tracing powder." "My special 100-mile tracing powder isn't something a little amount of water could easily wash away. If one does not use the special drug to bathe in beforehand, then it'll take a week for the powder to lose effect." Elder Himu bragged. "You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.